Hello. Welcome to the fanfic Majesty. 10 TOEFL. Chapter 50. Defending the Forest. The group of magic knights and diamond fugitives jumped down from the hole in the queen's palace and landed on a large and strong root. They all looked forward, seeing the forest before them being set ablaze. Holy crap, this is bad, Kenos said aloud. Tell me about it. We just got here a few minutes ago. Fana works hella fast, Finral added. Noelle stepped forward, looking back at her companions. There are fires everywhere. Taking down the opposition won't matter if the forest is burnt to the ground anyway. I'll stay here and use my water magic to extinguish the flames. The rest of you will fight. That's all right with me. Okay everyone, move out. Asta exclaimed as all of them, excluding Noelle, ran forward towards the enemy. Meanwhile, up in the sky, on the side of the eye of the midnight sun, Fana looked down. Nice work, Salamander. This forest shall burn, but for some reason, the queen has yet to show herself. Well, that's a good thing. We can obtain the magic stone without needing to have a confrontation with her, she said. I suppose I could have let Annalise come, but I couldn't take the risk. Beside the flame mage was Shiden. He too looked down at the blazing forest, but his eyes were focused on something else. So, this is the witch's forest. I've heard a bit about this place. No men are allowed, and there are many beautiful women, although, based on what I can see, none of them compare to Lady Fana's beauty, he thought to himself before he heard something, causing him and the pink-haired woman to look up. What are those? Fana wondered aloud. Before her and her group a large number of golems, all of their eyes were flashing red. What are we going to do, Lady Fana? A hooded mage asked. I'll destroy them, of course, she replied. Flame spirit magic. Salamander's breath. The larger spirit blasted its signature attack at her call, hitting every single golem, causing them to all combust simultaneously. That was easy, Shiden silently commented. The green-haired mage then looked down, watching witches fly away, his eyes full of sadistic lust as they fixed themselves on the younger ones. They may not be as beautiful as Lady Fana, but they'll do just fine. He took his grimoire out as it flipped through pages. Plant magic. Capturing vines. At his call, large vines came out from the sleeves of his robes. They quickly made their way down, ensnaring 3 witches right off of their brooms, pulling them all towards him, kicking and screaming of course. Let us go. The witches screamed in unison. The plant mage slowly moved towards one with a disgusting look on his face. Sorry, but I can't do that. Once we're done here, you're going to be coming with me. I'll train you well. Soon, you won't even miss this place, he said, licking her. Ah, someone help, she screamed. Hey, you, a voice exclaimed. Shiden looked down to see Asta running towards him. Oh, a magic knight, here to get in our way. You'll regret that, he said quite calmly as he extended one of his hands towards the swordsman as the vines from before raced his way. You're going to have to do better than that, Asta exclaimed as he effortlessly cut the vines with his swords. Better? That can happen, Shiden stated in the same tone of voice as he looked at the other hooded mages beside him. Attack, he shouted. His allies didn't need to be told twice, they immediately began firing magic bullets and low-level spells, all in hopes of taking down the Black Bull. Man, it feels good to be able to fight again. I wasn't even confined to a sling for 3 whole days, yet it feels like I haven't been to battle in ages, Asta thought as he either dodged, cut, or deflected the attack coming his way. He then quickly jumped into the air, slamming the demon slayer into a hooded mage's head, knocking them out. He then used their airborne broom to boost himself upward. For the first time, Shiden showed some worry. What the? He took down one of our mages, and so quickly, and based on where he's going to land, this will be a pattern. And sure enough, the plant mage was corrected. Asta began by knocking out a mage with his sword before using either their broom or magical construct to boost himself up to the next enemy. This repeated until all the hooded mages were subdued. Shiden watched in shocked surprise as the magicless mage thrusted into the air once more, the demon slayer raised high. All right there Greenie, now it's your turn. Asta exclaimed, using the slayer to cut the vines used to constrict the witches. He then quickly spun around, slamming the demon dweller right into the pervert's face, knocking him off of his broom. Asta, Shiden, and the 3 witches began free falling. The swordsman landed masterfully on his feet. The 3 females landed roughly on their bottoms, but the plant mage had it worst of all as his face was the closest to the ground, making him fall face first into the ground, knocking him out immediately. There we go, I still got it, Asta silently praised himself before he instinctively started running towards the witches. Hey, are you all okay? None of you broke any. He was interrupted as one of them slapped him right in the face. It didn't hurt, but that didn't stop him from getting pissed. What was that for? The witch who slapped looked at him with disdain. We didn't ask for your help. What in the motherfucking hell are you talking about? The whole reason I came here and kicked the ass of about 10 mages was because you were screaming for help. Asta protested. Well, even if we did need help, we weren't going to accept it from you, the witch said back as she took her broom and flew away. The other 2 gave the swordsman the same look of disdain before flying off as well. I'll have to apologize for their stubbornness. Asta turned around to see Domina and the others in the group approaching him. Remember what I said. The Witches' Forest is a misandrist place with loads of misandrist people. As such, the witches here believe females to be the better gender, and for males to be the equivalent of scum. Well, that's stupid, Keno spoke up. Gender doesn't matter when you're in the line of danger, you should be grateful to the person that saves you. Unfortunately, they don't see it that way, the Vortex Mage blatantly told him. Well, onto the matter at hand, it appears all the members of the Eye of the Midnight Sun are here, Mariella said. So where are the forces from the Diamond Kingdom? Just as she finished saying this, an explosion was seen kilometers away, right to the group's left. I believe that answers your question, Finral told her. If the Diamond Kingdom is over there, then I'm going there, Fanzel said as he stepped up. I was a former instructor, I know all of their moves and how they'll fight. His wife walked over to him. We understand, but of course, you're going to need some help, I won't let my dear Zell fight them all alone. The Ice Mage lazily raised her hand. I think you already knew I wasn't letting you go without me. They smiled. Of course, Fanzel said. Now let's get. Wait, a voice interrupted. Fanzel turned to see the Solar Mage. Something the matter, Kenos? The Wind Mage asked. Kenos clenched his fists. I want to go with you, he replied, his tone showing some hesitation, but then his face became serious. I have a score to settle, with Brosnan. Fanzel knew that name well, causing his eyes to widen. Are you sure? Brosnan is no joke of a mage, if the two of you are going to fight, it won't be easy. I know, but I still want to do this, Kenos replied, making sure to not reveal the injury Yami suffered at the Golden Eye Mage's hand. Brosnan got away from us in Kaidan, I won't let it happen again, I'm taking him down. Fanzel looked at the young noble, and Kenos looked back, their eyes peering straight into the other. All right then, but just be careful, he then took his grimoire out. Wind creation magic. Emperor of slashing winds, hovering swords. He exclaimed as 4 swords of wind appeared, the Black Bull and the fugitives jumping on them. Kenos turned to Asta, Finral, and Vanessa. Good luck you 3. Good luck, Kenos, and make sure you come back, it's like Asta said, you're one of our good friends, we can't lose you, Vanessa responded. The Solar Mage smiled before he turned back to the Diamond Trio. I'm ready, he said as they all flew in the air, towards the other group of enemies. Asta tightened the grip on his swords. Okay, that means the rest of the fight over here is up to us. We might need something to give us a hand, Vanessa stated, she turned to the Spatial Mage. Hey Finral, can you make a portal to the room of the Queen's Palace, the one you all broke into? I can, but what do you need there? He asked with a confused look. The Thread Mage merely winked. You'll see. Okay then. Finral made a portal as Vanessa sent threads inside, pulling out the 2 of their brooms. Just thought we might need these, she said. Awesome, let's get moving, Asta said as he mounted behind Finral on his broom, the 3 looking forward, seeing the decent number of Midnight Sun mages still left to defeat. We've got a lot of work to do. The 2 brooms then rose up into the sky and soared towards the enemy, it didn't take long for the hooded mages to spot them. Magic Knights. Kill them. One mage shouted as they all released a wave of magic bullets. Split up, we'll be able to divide their numbers and deal with them better. Vanessa instructed as she flew to the left, Finral and Asta followed her cue, moving to the right, which let them dodge the massive number of attacks. One of the Midnight Sun mages spotted the Spatial Mage and the swordsman. There they are, she exclaimed as she fired 2 medium-sized boulders at them. Finral quickly noticed this and responded. Spatial magic. Fallen Angel's twin gates. He declared as he formed 4 portals simultaneously, 2 in front of him, and 2 behind 2 unknowing hooded mages. The pair of boulders went in through the first portal and came out the second one, pushing the 2 mages of their means of flight and sent plummeting to the ground. Awesome work, Finral, Asta congratulated his senior. Now it's my turn, do you think you could get me closer? I'll try, he replied as they zoomed forward as the horde of enemy mages. Finral then created a portal directly in front of him as his broom raced through it, appearing directly above the mages. Alright, Asta, you're up. The Magicless Mage grinned. Thanks a bunch, he exclaimed as he jumped off the broom. His declaration caught the attention of the enemies, causing them all to look up at him, but it was too late. Asta tightened his grip on the Demon Slayer and slammed it right into the face of the mage below him, sending him on his way to the ground, giving Asta something to stand on as he saw the number of mages that surrounded him. Bring it on. I won't lose to any of you. We'll see how confident you are when you're dead, a mage said back, his grimoire flipping to a page. No more firing magical bullets, it was the time for concrete spells. Glass magic. Spinning shard shootdown. He called as glass shards of various sizes started appearing around him. The shards then began spinning like a buzzsaw before making their way towards Asta. I'm not scared of something like that. The swordsman yelled with confidence as he used the demon dweller to quickly break the spinning pieces of glass, but then his key detection went off, and he felt 2 more spells coming his way from 2 different directions behind his back. Those won't be a problem. All I have to do is spin around with my swords, then I can cut them both at the same time, he thought. But before he could even execute the plan, two familiar portals appeared. The spells went into them, coming back out as one hit the glass mage from earlier, the other hit another Midnight Sun mage. Finral. Asta muttered. Asta. The magicless mage looked up at the sound of his name, and their Finral was, above him, where'd been the whole time. You never left? Asta asked as he began cutting and dodging spells. Nope. After you jumped down, I stayed here and decided to use my portals to provide some backup, he replied. And it looks like I was right to do so. Awesome. I already knew your spatial magic was cool from the time we fought Veto together, but I didn't know it had such a capability like this. We can fight and eliminate mages at the same time. Finral smiled before quickly looking at his hand. Looking at myself now, I can't believe there was a time when I didn't want to fight. My magic is turning out to be really useful. I guess it was just me holding myself back. I wonder how'd I do if I ever had to face off with Langris, he thought before quickly redirecting his attention to the battle. From afar, some Midnight Sun mages watched in confusion. What's going on over there? I'm just seeing our forces drop. Perhaps we should move in, he started saying, but was interrupted as something wrapped around his leg and pulled him off of his magical construct. Other mages turned around at the sound of his sudden scream. What just happened? One asked with a bit of fear in her tone. I could explain that, a voice said. They all looked forward to see Vanessa, on her broom, looking at them with a calm smile on her face. Just thought I should give him a little push, or rather, a little pull. Attack. Don't let her dodge this time. A mage exclaimed as they too began to fire spells rather than bullets. Getting serious now, are we? Okay, but I can still dodge those just fine, Vanessa said as he flew up and then around, evading the spells before moving closer to them, sending out two strands of her thread, wrapping around the legs of two more mages, and just like before, they were soon on their way to the ground. I wonder how Asta and Finral are doing. The number of this horde is significantly going down, so I guess they're doing just fine. I guess I sort of owe my mother something for this. I bet Asta is having the time of his life. It does feel good to be able to fight again, she thought to herself before she noticed a spell coming directly at her. Shit, she yelled as she quickly flew up, just managing to dodge the attack. She gratefully sighed in relief. That was close. She then noticed a mage was directly below her. I better use this chance to do some damage, the thread mage said as she quickly shot threads down. They softly wrapped themselves around him as the Black Bull's grimoire flipped to a different page. Thread magic. Dancing doll. Vanessa then began moving the mage's body, much to his surprise. What the hell? My body's moving on its own. He quickly looked up, seeing the mage. You won't escape this time, he muttered as he raised his hands up to her, a fire growing. That's not going to work. This spell may be called Dancing Doll, but I'll need you to do something different for me, Vanessa said with a smile and a wink as she pulled on her threads, forcing the man's arms to move right in front of him as the spell was released, the target of his attack changing from the Magic Knight to one of his allies. Another Midnight Sun mage noticed Vanessa in the air. There she is, he was going to say, but was knocked off his broom by the fire attack of the previous mage. The others turned to the flame mage. He just attacked one of his allies, one said. A traitor, another exclaimed, or a spy sent from the Clover Kingdom to infiltrate our forces. Take him down. They all began firing bullets at him. Wait, you don't understand, it was the Magic Knight, he tried to explain, but to no avail as many of the attack made contact, sending him on his way to the ground. Vanessa quickly removed the threads on him as he descended. She quickly flew away from the small group of mages. They noticed her, however, and began chasing her. Take this, Asta exclaimed as he deflected a spell right back at the mage who sent it. He then began to breathe heavily. Damn, this is getting a little tiring. How about you, Finral? I could be better, the spatial mage as he created portals to protect himself and Asta from two incoming attacks. Their numbers are dwindling. We're doing great. All say. The sudden declaration caused everyone to look to their left. The two Black Bulls smiled as they saw that it was Vanessa. Follow me, I have a way to finish them all at once. She told them. No complaints here. Let's go, Asta, Finral said as he formed a portal right next to the swordsman. He jumped into it, appearing behind the spatial mage before they flew away. After them, the remaining Midnight Sun mages exclaimed together, flying after the Magic Knights in hot pursuit. So, Vanessa, what's the plan? Finral asked. You'll see, I just have to prepare it first, she replied as he fired two threads at two very far away trees. Her grimoire then flipped to a page and glowed. There we go. You won't escape. The voice of a hooded mage cried a good distance behind them. The hooded mage put his hands up, ready to cast a spell. Wait, don't, another told him. Why not? He asked. The other mage pointed at Finral. They have a spatial mage with them. He uses portals to send our attacks right back at us, or at somebody else. If we try long-range attacks, it'll only decrease our numbers further. The best option is to get up close and personal, she explained. Fine then, he said back as he put his arms down. They all then increased their pace. They're gaining on us, Vanessa. Informing us of your plan would be nice. Asta exclaimed. Don't worry, you'll see in action. You don't need me to tell you, she answered before turning to the spatial mage. Finral, teleport us about 10 feet forward. Okay then. He obeyed and formed the portal as they went into it, coming out 10 feet from where they just were. Now what? For some reason, she stopped. Now what? Now we just watch. Watch, her two squadmates exclaimed. She nodded. That's right, trust me. And trust is exactly what the two boys did as Finral's broom stopped and the two watched as the enemy got closer. They've stopped moving. Have they completely lost it? A midnight sun asked aloud. I don't know, but this means that killing them will be so much easier. Let's not waste this opportunity. And another one was in the middle of saying, but stopped as every single hooded mage somehow stopped in their tracks, but they didn't intentionally stop. It was if they couldn't move, that they were trapped. But then, out of nowhere, a large light purple net became visible, and from the net, smaller threads emerged, wrapping themselves around the enemy, immobilizing them completely. Wow, what did you do? Asta asked, surprised by the outcome. I just set a spell for them. My thread magic. Arresting dark weave. The first thing to make contact with it will be bound in threads, she explained with a grin. A perfect way to eliminate the remaining mages, Finral said. So, you defeated them all. The sudden sound of an unfamiliar voice behind them shocked the three. They quickly turned around, and saw Fana not too far away, standing on top of Salamander. Fana, I was wondering where she went, Finral muttered. She must have broken off on her own when the fight started. It didn't take long for Fana to recognize who her opponents were. The Swords Thief, we meet again, and the spatial mage that was with you is here too. She then focused her gaze on Vanessa, but her brow was raised. Although I don't recognize the bimbo. Bimbo, Vanessa angrily exclaimed, almost standing up on her broom. You messed with the wrong witch, sister. Those words have just warranted an even worse ass kicking than you were already going to get. The only ones who will be getting their asses kicked are you. I'm going to make you pay for killing Beto. Burn in the flames of my hatred. Fana exclaimed as her grimoire flipped to a familiar page. Flame Spirit Magic. Salamander's Breath. The Flame Spirit reeled its head back before firing its signature attack. I got this one, Asta said as he put the Demon Dweller back in his grimoire and tightly gripped the Demon Slayer with both hands. He then jumped into the air, and with all of his strength, he deflected the attack right back to its origin. How do you like that? He exclaimed proudly. Fana, however, didn't look worried in the slightest. It's of no consequence, Salamander, another one, she commanded, and the spirit growled in response before firing the same attack. The two clashed in the air, creating a shockwave of decent strength. Fana, Vanessa, and Finral were pushed back a few inches, but were overall fine. However, the same couldn't be said for Asta as he was still in the air. The force of the shockwave was enough to push him feet back before he began plummeting towards the ground, skipping right over his two squadmates. Shit, Finral, Vanessa exclaimed. I know, he exclaimed back as he formed a portal under the falling swordsman, who fell into it, but instead of landing back on Finral's broom, he landed on the ground. The two black bulls flew down to where he was. Sorry about that, you were falling pretty fast, so I panicked a bit with the portal, Finral apologized. Asta reached into his grimoire and pulled back out the short sword. Don't sweat it, it's best if we fight on the ground anyway, as we saw from just a few seconds ago, my mobility is limited in the air, I have to be more careful up there. You're right, we'll fight down here, Vanessa said. They all then turned and saw Fana and Salamander not too far away. The spirit decided to stay in the air. So, you decided to stay on the ground like the filthy insects you humans are. It won't change the fact that I'll kill you, Fana said. What the hell are you talking about? You're a human too, and don't be so confident. You're going to have to work your butt off in order to kill us. Asta screamed. Fana broke her emotionless stare and grit her teeth. Don't equate me to you, human. Flame Spirit Magic. Salamander's Breath. She angrily exclaimed as the spirit fired yet another attack. Asta retaliated by jumping into the air and using both swords to cut the spell in half. As I said, you'll need to do better. He exclaimed before running towards her and the spirit. He crouched down, storing up potential energy. The ground cracked under his foot as he boosted himself even further into the air. Let me help you, Finral called as he made a portal above Asta. The swordsman rocketed into it and came out even higher up, above Salamander. Let's see how you like this. He exclaimed as he slashed at the spirit's chest. The spirit roared in pain as Asta landed on its head and started running towards Fana. Now it's your turn. He made multiple attempts to strike her down, but she dodged each one. It seems you won't go down so easily either. Of course I won't. I won't lose to those that I hate with all my heart. The flame mage exclaimed. Asta pointed the demon slayer at her. Then there's the whole thing about hate. You might not be shouting about hate every 5 seconds like Veto was about despair, but I still want to know, why do you hate us so bad? The faces on the other mages present contorted in surprise. No offense, Asta, but I don't think this is the time to start asking those questions. Finral called. I know, but still, I want to understand, he said before looking back at the pink-haired girl. We don't even know each other that well, but you say you hate us and those of the Clover Kingdom, why? Why? You want to know why? You people in this damn kingdom took everything away from me, all the things I loved, all the people I loved, all of it, and then, you kill Veto again, so more than anything, I want to see you burn. She screamed. Flame magic. Twisting inferno. Fire grew on her hands as she launched them forward as two streams. The streams collided and fired a united stream, but Asta crossed his two swords to block it. Again. What does she mean by that? He muttered before he then thought about something else. But her reasoning, it's similar to what Veto said at the underwater temple. You're not the only ones. I had hopes and dreams too, as well as people I cared about, but do you know what happened to it all? They were taken away from me. By stupid humans like you. Fana began increasing the strength of her spell. Die. 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 She screamed, but then the crystal on her forehead broke, revealing an eye. What? Another one? Ah. Asta exclaimed as the force was too much and he was pushed off Salamander. I got you, Vanessa said as she wrapped threads around him and pulled him towards them. Thanks, he said as he stood up and looked forward. From a new perspective, they saw that Fana wasn't the only one to get stronger. Salamander had begun to grow in size, and two hunks of minerals floated at its sides as it radiated strong levels of heat. Damn, just when you think Salamander was dangerous as is, now it gets stronger, Finral commented as they all crossed their arms in front of their bodies to protect themselves from the heat, with Asta putting his swords back. Let's get on our brooms and fly out of here, Vanessa told the other two. They nodded and mounted the brooms before beginning to fly away. Fana looked at them as they did so. You won't escape. Flame spirit magic. Salamander's breath. She exclaimed as Salamander shot the attack again, but unlike all the other times, it was a lot bigger, moving much faster, and was much more powerful. Holy crap, that speed is unreal. I need to make a portal, Finral said, but before he was able to do so, someone else stepped up. Make way. The three black bulls looked up as someone jumped into the air in front of them, and that person was none other than their resident water mage. Noelle, leave this one to me, she exclaimed as her grimoire flipped to a page. Water creation magic. Sea Dragon's Cradle. At her call, the orb of water surrounded her and the trio, protecting them from the attack. Thanks for the save, Noelle, Vanessa said. The royal flicked her ponytail. No problem. I finished taking out the fires a little while ago. I then decided to come help you, and it's a good thing I did. Great. Now climb on. We need to establish some distance, the thread mage said as she obeyed and got on before they both flew away. So, what's the plan? Salamander got a lot stronger. If we want to beat Fana, we have to beat the spirit first. Finral wondered aloud. I have an idea, Asta said as he turned to Noelle. Use that awesome spell you did that removed Veto's arm. Excuse me, what? Finral and Vanessa both asked in surprise. They weren't present when Noelle used her spell against the beast mage. You mean Sea Dragon's Roar? I don't know, it couldn't take down Veto, and it's pretty safe to say that spirit is stronger, she said with some doubt in her voice. Don't worry about that. Salamander is a fire spirit, and you use water magic. The attribute advantage should cover it, Vanessa attempted to encourage her. I guess, but, am I strong enough? She asked with the same tone of doubt. Of course you are, Asta exclaimed. You're amazing, Noelle, you've always been amazing. No matter what people have said about you, I've seen your strength, we've seen your strength, and we know you have what it takes. He's right, we believe in you, Finral added. You guys, Noelle said, she couldn't stop herself from making a warm yet goofy smile. All right, I can do this. The two brooms then turned around and raced towards the Mage of the Midnight Sun. Fana saw them fly to her. So, you've decided to stop running away. I commend your bravery, but that's all you'll get from me. Get ready, Noelle. Once we get close enough, it'll be your cue to attack, Vanessa said. This will be the end of you. Time to give it everything we've got. Flame spirit magic. Salamander's blaze. Fana exclaimed as Salamander rose its wings while it began glowing a flaming red and a ball of fire started growing in its mouth. It then released a very powerful blast of magic. Noelle. Now. The water mage stood up on the broom, pointing her wand towards the attack nearing as her grimoire flipped to its newest page. Here I go. Water creation magic. Sea Dragon's Roar. She exclaimed as the water dragon was unleashed. The two attacks quickly clashed and began struggling. You won't defeat me, girl, you can't defeat the flames of my hate. Fana exclaimed. You're wrong, I can defeat the flames of your hatred, because of one thing, and do you want to know what that is? Noelle exclaimed back as her dragon began winning. It's the trust my squadmates have in me. Her dragon spell then won the struggle and raced towards Salamander. It took a big bite out of the spirit as Salamander roared in pain. The water mage's spell then disappeared as Salamander began to drop down a few feet, but quickly recovered. What? That still wasn't enough, but how? Noelle said with shock. I don't know, but it's clear you weakened it. That's good, the thread mage told her. The flame spirit flew back up, albeit slower than usual. Fana was breathing heavily. I wasn't expecting that to happen. It seems I'll have to take a different approach. Her grimoire flipped to a different page, but it had a slight difference from the other spells she had. Mineral creation magic. Harp. At her call, the two hunks of mineral at Salamander's side fashioned themselves into two large blades. They spun around in a buzzsaw-like fashion before being launched towards the magic knights. Finral and Vanessa didn't recognize the spell coming at them, but Asta and Noelle did. Regardless, it didn't stop them all from saying the same word. What? They exclaimed before quickly dodging the blades. How the hell did she use that kind of spell? That isn't her attribute. Finral exclaimed. Noelle, you recognize that spell, right? Asta asked. She nodded. Yeah, that's Mars' spell, that Diamond Kingdom mage. She must be a dual mage too. After all, I never really took the time to check her grimoire, the swordsman said. Hey, Fana, by any means, do you have a brother? Spiky hair, grim expression. He screamed. A brother, she repeated. I have no brother, or any other siblings. I don't know why you would ask that question. If you're trying to stall for something, it won't work. Okay then, she's an only child and she doesn't seem to know Mars. Either way, we need to finish this fight once and for all, Asta said before clenching his fist. That means I have to use it, my special move. His three squadmates immediately looked at him with deadpan expressions. Special move. Asta chuckled before he held his chin. Ah yes, my special move. I thought of it while my arms were still in a sling. I speed towards my enemy with both swords extended in front of me and hit them with a large amount of piercing force. How exactly are you planning to develop enough speed to make that useful? Noelle asked. No offense, but it doesn't sound like you could pull it off. What? Asta whined. She's right, you know, Finral said. Vanessa nodded. There's no way you could ever pull it off, she and the spatial mage then grinned. Quote. At least, not without us, they said together. Asta grinned. Finral, form some distance between us, Vanessa instructed as he did so. She then placed two long and strong strands of thread at the ends of their brooms. Okay Asta, your turn, jump off the broom, the thread mage continued. On it, Asta said as he jumped off. The force of the wind immediately pushed him back, but his back landed right on the thread. Now, let's go, the older black bulls said together as they raced forward at their max speed. Fana, prepare for defeat. The magicless mage exclaimed. That's what I should be saying to you, she said back. Get ready, Asta, the rest is now up to you. Finral and Vanessa exclaimed as their brooms suddenly stopped and the boy was sent flying towards the spirit. Thanks, you too, I owe you big time. Asta screamed as he pulled out his swords and put them in front of him. You may have those swords, but even they won't save you. Flame spirit magic, Salamander's blaze. Fana exclaimed as the spirit released the powerful attack again. At the speed Asta was moving, he was able to meet the stream head-on safely, the power of his swords protecting him from harm. This is it, Asta exclaimed as he continued to flash forward, and with tremendous force, he crashed right into Salamander's chest. He growled for a few seconds. I won't lose. He then ripped through, tearing the spirit's physical body in half, with still enough force to keep going. Face the wrath of my special move, bull thrust. Fana's face showed shock as a pillar of flame erupted from within Salamander's split body. No way, she seemed to fall in slow motion. I'm sorry, Annalise, licked, she muttered as she and the spirit crashed onto the ground. Chapter 51. Pride of the Rossiu House. Hey there, readers, today is the beginning of another week-long chapter update. School just ended for me last week, and now I'm excited to get some chapters out. You know the drill, here's day 1, enjoy. CYA. So, this is the Witch's Forest, not bad of a place. The focus shifted from the eye of the midnight sun to the Diamond Kingdom forces as they flew over the thick group of trees. At the front of their forces stood 3 figures, each flying on their own construct or magic item. In the center of the group was the Golden Eye Mage, Brosnan, to the mage's left was the Mineral Mage, Mars, and the last figure was the one who made the earlier remark about the forest. It was a man with medium-sized blonde hair and pale skin. He wore similar attire to Mars. Mars turned to the third figure. Regardless, make sure you don't get sidetracked. Ladros, don't forget what happened during our last mission. Ladros slightly slumped. That wasn't my fault, Mars, it was that Clover Mage's fault. He's the one who decided to make fun of my hair. You completely abandoned the job you were given and focused solely on him. Even after you beat him to a pulp, you didn't get back to your assigned objective, Mars told him nonchalantly, which only made Ladros groan more. You really need to keep that part of you under control, especially since you're a shining general now. What are you talking about? It's that quality which makes me such a ruthless mage, and ruthless is good in the Diamond Kingdom, Lodros fired back. Enough you two. We're in possible enemy territory, we can't afford to be distracted, Brosnan said with a short clap before turning to the blonde general. Lodros, Mars has a point. While your ruthlessness is a great asset to the Diamond Kingdom, so is obedience and the ability to complete missions efficiently. As Shining General, you're an authority figure, and therefore must be a good example for our forces. To the Mineral Mage's shock, Lodros merely saluted. Of course, my bad, I guess I'll have to do better next time, he said with a small chuckle. Why'd you listen when Brosnan told you to? Mars asked. Well duh, didn't I tell you already, or were you too busy being moody? Lodros began replying. I look up to Brosnan, undoubtedly the strongest member of the 8 Shining Generals, a pinnacle of our kingdom's strength. What's there not to idolize, isn't that right, Ms. Anna? The Golden Eye Mage turned to him, the helmet hiding the look on her face. While I'm honored by your admiration, please refrain from calling me by my first name, that's reserved only for Lotus and personal friends. Right, sorry about that, Lodros said before putting a hand on his chin. I wonder why nobody has come this way. I fired off a warning shot, but no luck. That's all right. Although taking down potential enemies now means we won't have to worry about an ambush later. Not having anyone to fight in the first place while we head to our destination is even better, Brosnan told him. But unbeknownst to the Golden Eye Mage, a group of mages was on their way towards them, ready for a fight. So, how much closer do you think we'll have before we get there? Kenos asked as he and the Diamond Fugitives rode on the wind swords. It shouldn't be too much farther. I'm sensing large clusters of mana. We're getting close, Fanzel replied. The Solar Mage looked at the older Wind Mage. So, you're going to be fighting against the Diamond Kingdom, are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be. That's not my kingdom anymore. Just like with Galio, I'll go in giving it everything I got, he replied. And you, are you ready for your fight with Brosnan? I am. Hey, I just remembered, you're both from the Diamond Kingdom, and you seem to know him to an extent. Do you have any tips I can use for when we fight? Tips well, Brosnan and I have never really spoken to each other. I've never even seen him without his helmet on, but we did fight together during a mission some time back. His magic allows for powerful long-range attacks, and his armor gives him an advantage when close up as well. So my advice is, hit hard and fast, overpower him before he can do anything. Can you do that? Kenos looked at the ring on his finger before looking back at Fanzel. I can. Good, Fanzel said with a smile before that smile quickly disappeared. We're here, I can detect their mana. Same here. That's Brosnan's mana all right, Kenos added. So what's the plan of action? Are we taking them head on, or something else? I know what I'm going to do, Mariella replied as she jumped off her wind sword and onto a nearby branch. I'll look through the forest for any diamond soldiers. If I don't find any, I'll regroup with you. Okay. Be careful, Domina told her as the Ice Mage nodded and disappeared into the forest. The Vortex Mage turned to her 2 male companions. This is it. The Wind and Solar Mages nodded before the 3 of them began to move in closer. This is boring. I want to fight someone, Lodros groaned again as they kept flying. Patience, Lodros, we should get to the Witch Queen's castle soon. Even if we don't run into anyone on the way there, we'll most definitely have to fight the Queen herself, especially since I've heard that she doesn't do too kindly to outsiders, Brosnan told him. The Shining General punched his palm. Awesome, I can wait to show Her Majesty what I can do. Don't you mean what we can do? Mars asked. Oh yeah, well, it's alright if you can't fight. Brosnan and I should be perfectly capable of handling it. Lodros was beginning to say back, but was interrupted as a strong gust of wind blew past them. Alright, it seems there's someone here to fight after all. I wonder if it's a witch. However, the Diamond Mage was partially surprised to see the origin as it flew up and stood across from them. One word left Lodros' mouth, and for the first time, it didn't have a joking tone behind it. Fanzel. The Wind Mage spoke with the same tone. Hello, Lodros. Brosnan looked at Fanzel too, but she also noticed Kenos standing next to him. It's that boy from Kaidan. I didn't think he'd know Fanzel and Dominant, but why are they here? She thought before choosing to speak up. Hello Kruger, and you too, Dominant. The 2 Diamond Fugitives merely narrowed their eyes before Lodros once more opened his mouth. Well, if it isn't our old Teach, how are you doing? You look well, his tone returned to how it usually was. Teach. Kenos wondered aloud. As well as being a commander of the Diamond Army, I was also an instructor. I taught many young mages, of them were Lodros and Mars, Fanzel replied, his eyes quickly shifting to Mars, noting that the Mineral Mage had yet to say anything to them. That's right, he did teach us, before he decided to betray his kingdom and leave, Lodros said, but the tone took another shift. While it was mostly sarcastic, there was an underlying tone of hurt in it as well. Fanzel said nothing. choosing not to respond to his former student's statement. Instead, he chose to address the matter at hand. Why exactly are you here? If you must know, our king over in the Diamond Kingdom isn't doing too well, Lodros began replying. And we've heard that the Witch Queen has been around for hundreds of years, so we came here to find out her little secret and use it for our king, and we'll get it, either by force, or a lot of force, because we know damn well she won't just hand it over. You think we'll let you do that? Kenos exclaimed. This has now become a matter concerning the Clover Kingdom as well. You attacked Kaiden just yesterday. If your king is allowed to live for that long, what's stopping you from trying it again, or attacking somewhere else? It doesn't matter what you think, Junior, we're going to get it, and I'm so glad you decided to get in our way because I was bored out of my damn mind. Now we have someone to kill before getting to the queen, Lodros said to him with a laugh. That's not happening. I taught you everything you know. We won't lose this fight, the Wind Mage confidently stated. Lodros grinned. Tough words there, teach, but let's see if you can back it up. He then turned to the many diamond soldiers behind him. It's your turn now. Make sure not to kill Fanzel though, I want to do that myself. Yes sir. The soldiers exclaimed before flying past the three shining generals and towards the three opponents in front of them. Down with the traitors. I can handle a few, Keno said as he took his grimoire out as it flipped to a page. Solar creation magic. Rain of solar daggers. He exclaimed as daggers fell on the soldiers. He grinned as many hit their mark, causing some of them to fall off their vehicle of transportation and begin hurtling towards the ground. Nice work, Kenos, wind creation magic, Emperor of slashing winds. Fanzel joined in as he cast his signature base spell and flew towards soldiers, slashing each one that got close, sending them to the ground too. I won't let you two do all the work, Domina stated. Are you sure? Won't your magic not be too good in this situation since it's an attribute based on defense? The solar mage asked. The woman wagged her finger in a correcting manner. My magic may be based on defense, but I have my set of offensive spells, so you don't need to worry about me, she replied with a wink. She then took out her own grimoire as she flew towards a cluster of soldiers. Vortex magic. Tempest falls. At her call, multiple tornadoes appeared around some of the soldiers, blasting high levels of magical wind. The diamond mages were no match for the force and were blown away. Domina turned to Kenos once more. Now do you see what I mean? The solar mage nodded with a smile on his face. I do, he replied before gasping. Look out. Domina turned just in time to see two spells coming right at her. Her grimoire flipped to a different page. Vortex creation magic. Cleaving sickle wind. She exclaimed as she created a weapon, and as its name suggested, it was a sickle made out of wind. You're going to need to try a lot harder than that if you want to beat me. Zell may be the former commander, but I'm no pushover either. The vortex mage continued as she cut the spells cleanly in half. Quick Kenos, you get the soldier on the left, and I'll get the one on the right. On it. Kenos responded, swiftly getting close to the enemy mage. Solar magic. Sunbeam ray. He exclaimed as he shot the beam directly at his opponent. Vortex creation magic. Whirl shock. Domina also exclaimed as she gathered her magical wind and shaped it into a disc before launching it. The projectile whistled in the air as it quickly made its way towards its target, hitting him dead on. Awesome work, the woman gave Kenos a thumbs up. The black-haired teen returned it with another smile, but the smile soon disappeared once he noticed a familiar figure at the corner of his eye. He turned around to get a better look. It was Brosnan. He had joined the cluster of soldiers making their way towards Fanzel. Domina looked in the same direction as him. Within the cluster of opponents, she knew who he was looking at. Good luck, she said. Don't worry about these guys, leave them to Zell and me. You did come with us to face against him after all. I did, thanks, Dominant, Kenos said gratefully as he flew towards the golden eye mage. Damn, they just keep coming. When will they end? Fanzel muttered to himself as he kept slashing through soldier after soldier, but the number didn't feel like it was decreasing. I wonder how Domina and Kenos are doing. Hopefully better than me, he continued muttering before he felt a familiar mana signature. He looked up to see Brosnan, just 2 feet away, his fist reeled back for a punch. We've worked together in the past, Fanzel, but we've never actually fought each other. I hope you haven't forgotten what you learned from the Diamond Kingdom, because I expect you to give it everything you've got. Brosnan bellowed. Fanzel's expression became one of worry as he caught sight of the armored mage, but soon, another sight crossed his line of vision, and it made his worried expression turn into a smile. While I would love nothing more than to fight you, I'm not your opponent today. Excuse me. Then who would my opponent be? The golden eye mage was confused, but that confusion disappeared as she noticed a shadow cast over her. She turned around to see Kenos, who had just jumped off his wind sword and was heading straight for her. That would be me, he exclaimed as he kicked the armored mage with both feet, the action sending her off her flight item and towards the ground, although her body remained standing straight while doing so. Kenos on the other hand, used the kick to boost himself up and do a backflip in order to increase his time in the air by a few seconds. In that time, he looked to his side to see Fanzel give him an affirming nod. The solar mage returned the gesture as he dropped to the ground, using the unconscious soldiers to break his fall. Upon doing so, he heard a soft grunt. It didn't take long for him to find its origin as he merely turned around to see the foe he wanted nothing more than to defeat. He pointed a finger at said foe. Brosnan, we meet again. I didn't get to properly introduce myself during the battle at Kaidan. My name is Kenos Rossiu, a magic knight and a proud member of the Black Bulls. Unlike yesterday, it won't be 3 against 3, but rather 1-on-1, just you and me. Kenos Rossiu. An interesting name, but we'll see if it's worth remembering. You say it'll be a 1-on-1 fight between us, yet there are so many other mages that can interfere, the Golden Eye Mage stated before zooming towards the Solar Mage, now only a few centimeters away. But don't worry, I can fix that, try not to die too soon. She then grabbed hold of Kenos' arm and launched him into the air before quickly jumping after him. What the hell? Kenos screamed in near terror as flew to a part of the forest. Soon, however, he began to see he was about to hit the ground, and if he hit it at the speed he was currently going at, he'd certainly be screwed. Solar magic. Sunbeam ray. He exclaimed, using the beam to slow down his descent. Although he still suffered a pretty rough landing, it could have been worse. He slowly got up and looked around, shocked at the sight before him. It was entirely bare, with many stumps around that look like they've been burnt. Fana must have passed through this place, that means we're close to the entrance of the forest. That's right. A voice exclaimed before a crash was heard. Kenos turned to see Brosnan standing inside a newly formed crater. This is the perfect spot for our little showdown. Nobody to help me, and nobody to help you. A true 1 versus 1, the armored mage took her grimoire out. Now, show me what you can do. Alright then. Time for something a little different. Solar creation magic. Solar construct. Limb armor. Kenos exclaimed as his familiar twin gauntlets became equipped to his hands, but as well as that, his feet became equipped by armored boots that reached just a bit above his ankle. Limb armor. Do you plan to face me close up? That's seriously not everything you can do. You stood your own against Tantalus. Try harder, Brosnan scoffed. You're going to regret saying those words, Kenos said back as he activated the ring on his finger. He then closed his eyes for a few seconds before opening them. Seeing the familiar white mana beads, he quickly glanced at Brosnan's mana, feeling its power, but he went back to focusing his own. Solar reinforcement magic. Mana charge. Sunshine aura. Mana charge. What's that? I've never heard of such a. Brosnan began saying, but was interrupted as she suddenly got punched in the face, the action pushing her back a good few feet. What the? She muttered, looking around to find Kenos, but strangely, he wasn't anywhere in her line of vision. How is he able to move that fast? It didn't take long for the Golden Eye Mage to notice a shadow above her. She looked up just in time to see Kenos quickly do a vertical spin, ready to slam her head with his heel. She rapidly crossed her arms to block the attack. She lifted her head up, her golden gaze falling on the Solar Mage's eyes, which showed nothing but seriousness. You're moving a lot faster than I remember you doing at Kaidan yesterday. I assume whatever this mana charge is the one responsible. Kenos allowed a smirk to grace his features. You could say that, he replied before doing a quick backflip. Upon landing on the ground, he became a blur once again. This is good, Fanzel was right, attacking hard and fast is giving me an advantage. He isn't even able to track my movements, but based on how he reacted to my last attack, I should refrain from physical attacks while in the air. This solar god speed combo makes me faster than my regular god speed, but it only works when on the ground, not to mention mana charging it is seriously burning my energy. Long story short, I have to defeat Brosnan before he can launch a counterattack, the Solar Mage thought. Once again, Brosnan wasn't able to react when Kenos struck her right in the back, sending her to the ground. She crossed her arms and slowly turned around multiple times, waiting for the strike to come, and when it did come, she was once more vulnerable as he struck her leg, forcing her to one knee. Damn it, this is beginning to get annoying. I need to slow him down, and I have the perfect spell for that. Her grimoire flipped to a different page. Golden Eye Magic. Million lasers. At her call, Brosnan's head became encased in a golden orb before a multitude of beams fired from it indiscriminately, its range covering a good few yards as dust covered the area. She was certain Kenos was hit by it, and just like she expected, once the dust settled, the Solar Mage was once more visible. He was seen crossing his arms. Behind her helmet, Brosnan smirked as she rushed over to her younger opponent. There you are, she said while launching a punch. Thankfully, Kenos' arms stayed crossed, which allowed him to block the attack, but the attack was strong, breaking his guard as he was sent back by a decent number of feet. Shit, I wasn't expecting him to have a spell like that on him, but he can't use it for the entire fight. I still have the advantage, Kenos thought to himself as he hit the ground, but he only stayed down for a few seconds as he immediately got up and jumped into the air. Solar magic. Sunbeam ray. He exclaimed. Golden Eye magic. Heat ray. The armored mage also exclaimed as she fired the twin beams as they clashed with Keno's spell, ending in a stalemate. Damn it, that didn't work. Well, I know I said that I shouldn't do aerial physical attacks, but this time, I have a plan, Keno's muttered as his grimoire flipped to another page. Solar creation magic. Rain of solar daggers. The daggers were ready to fall on Brosnan, all while Keno's was descending towards her. The solar mage planned to use the first spell to stop his opponent from being able to counter his attack. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Brosnan saw the mage as well as the spell he cast. It didn't take long for her to anticipate what he was planning. Not bad, but not good enough, was all she stated before looking up, ready to cast a spell. Golden Eye Magic. Multi-spread barrage. She placed a pair of fingers on the side of her helmet as she fired a quick succession of lasers, each shot dissipating a dagger until they were all gone. And there we go. Now it's time to handle you, she continued as her eyes fell back to Keno's, who was falling towards her. His fist reeled back. She responded by rotating her body, using the momentum to boost her own punch. Ah! They both screamed in unison as their punches clashed, creating a powerful shockwave. Another stalemate. Just like with my fight with Veto, we appear to be evenly matched. Damn it, I can't win if we're practically. Wait, what's going on? Keno's was in the middle of thinking while still in the air, remaining suspended only by the armored mage's fist, but stopped once he realized he couldn't move. Golden Eye Binding Magic. Overpower Glare, Brosnan thought before chuckling. How ironic. When I used this spell against William Vengeance yesterday, you were the one to get in my way and save him. But now, there's no one here to save you, she said as she dropped her fist, setting Keno's up to fall. But she then slugged him right in the face, sending him yards away. The force was so powerful that when he hit the ground, his body was thrust back up again, just to hit the ground again, and as he dropped to the ground for the last time, he partially dug into the soil. Damn, what a punch, Keno's muttered as he struggled to stand back up. He lightly touched the cheek where he was hit and winced in pain. The sound of footsteps was then heard. The solar mage looked up to see the golden eye mage slowly walking towards him. You're back up. Not bad, but let's see how you'll stand up against this, she said as her grimoire flipped to a page and the eye outlines of her helmet began glowing. What are you doing? Keno's asked. If you must know, I'm preparing my strongest spell, Brosnan replied. One capable of straight up vaporizing my opponents, but it does take some time to charge though. It takes time to charge, Then this is my chance, Keno's thought as he looked down at his ring. 3 outlines were already gone, and the last line was flashing. My ring will run out of juice in just a few seconds, even if I use whatever speed boost I have left to disrupt him from using his spell, he'll just charge it up again. I need to finish this now. He then closed his eyes again before opening them again, seeing the white beads of mana around him. It was the first time he had ever tried using mana charge twice in a fight, but he concentrated as the beads came to him, turning orange as they compacted into a circle in front of him. Brosnan, I'm finishing this fight, once and for all. Solar magic, mana charge, solar cross destroyer. Keno's exclaimed as the X's formed. He then divided one before shooting the lines towards his armored foe. Brosnan saw the lines coming. She extended both arms out and caught them with both hands, though she could feel the lines trying to crush her. Her strength was able to keep them from doing so, although it cost her the ability to move. Regardless, she was dauntless. Bring it on. All right then. Keno screamed as magic charged in his second X. He then clenched his fist tightly, releasing the blast. Golden Eye Magic. Final Flash. Brosnan exclaimed the name of her strongest spell as she too released a devastating blast. The two attacks then met, creating an even stronger shockwave than earlier as they both struggled for victory. Damn, I can feel the power of his spell from here. It's massive, but I can't lose, Keno said as he clenched his fist tighter. It would be at this time Captain Yami would tell me to push past my limits, so I must keep going, for him. You're going to need a lot more than whatever this spell is if you want to defeat me. Brosnan exclaimed as her spell increased in strength and slowly began to win. Keno's could feel himself getting pushed back by the force, but thanks to the lines he sent out, Brosnan's body stood still. And no, I have to win this struggle, this can't be everything I have. He exclaimed, but unfortunately, that was all he had as Brosnan's spell won out, defeating his spell as the remaining force hit him dead on. He remembered when a similar thing happened in the dungeon against Andreas' spell, and it was obvious that this one hurt more as he was blown to the ground, his auras disappearing. And no way. My solar cross destroyer wasn't as strong enough, even when I boosted it with mana charge, the solar mage said weakly. The lines attempting to crush Brosnan vanished. She then began walking towards Keno's. That was an impressive attempt, but you can't defeat me. You can come close, but you'll never actually do it. Upon being just a few inches from her young foe, she grabbed his collar and lifted him into the air. Now there's something I want to know. Why exactly did you want to fight me by yourself? Why? Because you hurt Captain Yami, and worst of all, it's my fault, so I'm going to make you pay. I still have one more spell in me. I'll turn this battle around. Just you wait. Keno's replied, his facial expression being one of anger. To his surprise, Brosnan chuckled. What a foolish boy you are. When someone stronger than you is injured, it isn't wise to try to get revenge if the perpetrator is even stronger. And besides, you think you're the only one who was angry. Yummy hurt Lotus. My response was justified. She then punched him in the stomach and threw him back on the ground before walking away. It seems your name wasn't worth remembering, but your fighting was impressive enough. For that, I'll kill you with my strongest spell. Consider it the greatest honor I could give an opponent like you, she said as she began charging the spell again. Keno's heard what the armored mage said. Kill. Am I going to die? As a magic knight, I've come close to death many times, but this time, there's no one here to fight with, no one here to come to my aid. This time, I'm fighting all by myself, and no one else will come, he thought morbidly as memories flashed through his mind. Instead of feeling bad for yourself, why don't you try to get to know everyone better, Asta? I already decided yesterday, but now I'm certain. I like you, Keno's Rossiu, Zuka. You seem like a great guy. I know one day it'll be the same for you too, Eon. You really are humble, and it's not from me, Vase. You'll never change if you talk crap about yourself. Don't do it again or I'll kill you, Yummy. Keno's thought about a small number of things he had been told by some of the most important people to him, but now, was he going to leave them all? His eyes slowly closed shut as darkness became the only thing he could see. Dot. You aren't giving up, are you? The sudden sound of a voice made the solar mage's eyes shoot open. To his complete surprise, the area around him looked different. Instead of the barren site that was the battlefield, it was now a vast field of only orange, spanning as far as the eye can see, as well as that, feathers were falling everywhere. They were white, and looked like the feathers of a bird. What the? Where am I? He muttered. Well, are you giving up? The strange voice asked again. It was gentle, and for some reason, it gave Keno's an oddly warm feeling. The solar mage began using his arms to push his body back up. I don't know who you are, but I'm not giving up. Oh, and why is that? Why? A lot of things have happened to me during my life, with some not being so good, but during that time, I've met a lot of great people too, people that I've grown really close to, and if I die here, I'd be leaving them all behind, and I won't let that happen. I'll survive, and I'll win. Keno's grimoire came up to him as the voice spoke up again, with a more proud and happy tone. Good, now go, that determination has granted you a way to win this battle, I'll be watching. The orange field vanished and Keno's returned to the barren area. He was surprised to see that he was back on his feet, but he had no time to worry about that as he looked down. The solar mage's grimoire flipped to a blank page before text became inscribed on it. Weird, who did that voice belong to? He wondered quietly, but then he brought his grimoire closer and looked at his new spell before his eyes greatly widened. No way, the second spell I learned since joining the Black Bulls and it's that spell. Okay then, I won't waste this opportunity. So, you've gotten back up. He heard Brosnan bellow. He saw that she was about 5 yards away, her spell fully charged. I have, thanks for not finishing me off right away. I'm grateful, but you'll regret it, Keno stated. Nonsense. This is the end of you. Golden Eye magic. Final flash. Brosnan exclaimed as the devastating beam was released once more. That won't defeat me this time. Solar creation magic. Keno's began as magic gathered behind him. Before becoming the shape of a large orange wyvern, it roared proudly as it majestically spread out its wings, and while the solar mage couldn't see it, Brosnan's eyes widened. Quote. Wyvern of Helios. The wyvern then took off, flying right at the final flash beam, but when the two attacks made contact, instead of clashing, the wyvern cut the beam in half, all while still flying towards the golden eye mage. Behind her helmet, Brosnan gasped. Not possible, she muttered as the wyvern crashed directly into her then into the ground, forming a large crater, forming a large cloud of dust. Keno's didn't wait for the dust to disperse. Using his newly found energy, he ran into the crater, mentally noting its depth. It must have been around 5 feet deep. Damn, my wyvern spell is pretty powerful. Kinda wish Dante and Oksana were here to see this, he thought as he slowed down and began walking. His foot then bumped into something hard. He assumed it to be Brosnan's armor, and seeing that it didn't react to his foot, the armored mage was defeated. Now all the solar mage had to do was wait until the dust settled to see whether he was dead or whether he needed to finish the job. But when the dust did eventually settle, his eyes widened greatly for the second time during that battle. Brosnan's armor was destroyed, revealing the mage inside, but unlike what he's believed all this time, the wearer wasn't a he, but rather a she. The regal red clothes she wore under the armor were slightly torn, but overall remained intact, and she started to wince before opening one eye, signifying that she was also alive. You're a woman, Keno screamed. Yes, that's right, my actual name is Anna, Brosnan is just my maiden name, she said, wincing a bit from the loud exclamation coming from the victor. But, you looked like a guy while in your armor, and everyone called you one too, didn't that bother you? Keno's asked. Not really, enemies confused me for a man due to the presence and deeper voice my armor gives me. I really saw no point in correcting them as it doesn't matter what gender you are. Whether or not they thought I was a woman didn't matter to me. The point of a battle for us in the Diamond Kingdom is to defeat your enemy and complete your mission, Anna replied before weakly sighing. And it seems I've failed this one. I guess your name is worth remembering. Kenos Rossiu, you defeated me, and now you've come here to kill me. I accept my fate, but before you do, I'd like to say something. Kenos raised a brow. And what might that be? I just wish I could see Lotus one more time, she responded. The solar mage looked at her with a confused look. Lotus, what's up between you two? You've mentioned him a few times, and you went ballistic when Captain Yami injured him in Kaiden. He seems quite important to you. Anna lightly chuckled. Why wouldn't he be? After all, he is my husband. Wait a minute, the two of you are married? He asked rhetorically with some disbelief before he remembered something the smoke mage said some time back. But there's no way I'm losing here. I got a family to go home to. A wife and 3 little girls. They mean everything to me, he recalled Lotus saying to him during their dungeon mission. If Lotus has daughters, and you're his wife, that means they're your daughters too, which makes you a mother, he deduced. Yes, that's true, but now I've spoken my words. I'm ready now, Anna said as she waited for death to greet her. Goodbye Lotus, my love, take care of the children for me, as you too, Ladros and Mars, make sure you finish this mission. Kenos' face hardened. He was currently out of mana, meaning he couldn't cast anything for the time being, but even if he was capable of doing so, he already decided what he was going to do. Tell Lotus how much you love him when you see him. I'm not going to kill you, Kenos said with a tone of soft seriousness as he turned around. Anna was the one who was baffled this time. Huh. Look, take it from me, parents aren't always the greatest, but they're still important. Your daughters shouldn't grow up without their mother, Kenos said as he turned around again and extended a hand to her. But don't make me regret this. Anna gathered whatever strength she had left and lifted her hand to take Kenos. Choosing to spare your opponent literally after she was trying to vaporize you just a little while ago, you truly are a foolish boy, she said, but as she was lifted up, a thought came to her head. But then again, I guess that's not such a bad thing, because that foolishness of yours is the only reason I'm still alive right now. Chapter 52. Teacher and Students. Hey there, readers, here's the chapter for day 2. Oh, and just a quick announcement. I must ask you to forgive me in advance if chapters come out late this week. I've caught a pretty bad cold, and standing up too long makes my head hurt a lot, so just putting that out there. But that's all I have to say. Enjoy the chapter. CYA. Interesting. The Witch Queen was currently watching the end of the fight between Kenos and Anna. It was quite intriguing to observe as it was a one-on-one fight, but there was something else she observed. That boy from the Black Bulls, Kenos Rossiu, the feeling I'm getting from him is undeniable. He's aligned with a sacred one. Strange, I've never heard of a sacred one aligning with a human before. Most of them usually aligned with beings of the race that lived long ago. That makes 2 people with abilities affiliated with that race, and Vanessa knows them both. Very interesting. Meanwhile, as Kenos and Anna's fight was ending, Fanzel and Domina were still fighting diamond soldiers. Take this, the Wind Mage exclaimed as he continued to cut down his opponents. He then turned to his wife. How are things on your side, Domina? I'm doing just fine, she replied as she cut spell after spell with her sickle, not letting any attack hit her before her grimoire flipped to a new page. Vortex Magic. Pursuing Wind. At her call, magical wind gathered around and split up, shaping themselves into varying jagged wind projectiles. Domina wasted no time unleashing their sharp wrath on the soldiers in her way. Multiple projectiles managed to lodge themselves in their targets, knocking them off balance and sending them on their way to the ground. We can't beat the traitors, they're too powerful. One soldier exclaimed. No, it's not impossible. All we need to do is encircle them and attack them at once, and I have just the spell to do it, another soldier said as his grimoire flipped through pages before stopping on one. Clone magic. Army of me. He exclaimed as many clones of him. Upon creation, they moved around quickly, effectively trapping the 2 fugitives in a circle of soldiers. Zell, stay close to me, I have a plan. Domina called out. All right, her husband called as he quickly flew over to her. They stood back to back. No plan you come up with will save you. The clone mage exclaimed as he and all of his copies fired large magic bullets. You have no idea how wrong that sentence is. Vortex magic. Whirlwind Guardian. Domina exclaimed as she conjured the cylindrical whirlwind to protect the 2 against the magical attacks coming their way. As the whirlwind dissipated, the woman smirked. See what I mean? Good work, Domina, leave this to me, duck. Fanzel then said as his wife quickly did so. He gripped his sword tightly with both hands. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, mountain wind. He exclaimed as he turned his body in a 360-degree angle. All the while, a strong wind was emanating from his sword, his rotation causing it to disperse in every direction, destroying all of the clones in a matter of seconds, as well as taking down the mage himself. Domina stood back up, giving him a thumbs up. Awesome, we're working well with each other. just like couples should. Although, I wonder how Mariella and Kenos are doing. I hope they're okay. Mariella will be fine. I'm confident in her abilities. The one to be concerned about is Kenos. Brosnan is undoubtedly the strongest mage the Diamond Kingdom sent here, and Kenos is fighting him alone. And what's worse, Brosnan launched him over to somewhere else, so we can't even observe how their fight is progressing, Fanzel told her. But there's nothing we can do about it. For now, we have to worry about winning ourselves, so we. He interrupted his own words as his mana detection went off and he sensed an attack coming from behind him. He quickly turned around and cut it in half with his sword. He immediately looked around to see where it came from, but it didn't take long for his eyes to fall on Ladros and Mars, but more specifically the former as his hand was protruded in the Wind Mage's direction. Well, damn, it looks like you caught me, so teach, what are you going to do next? Ladros asked while laughing. What am I going to do? I'm going to teach you a lesson, that's what, Fanzel replied before flying towards the two. Yay, I get to fight now, I'm going to kill you, traitor, you belong on the ground, like a dead roach, former teacher or not, the blonde mage said. Fanzel grit his teeth. You're wrong, Ladros, I'm not a traitor. The Diamond Kingdom mercilessly experiments on its citizens, disregarding the fact that they're human beings with desires and hopes of their own, and they like to take things by force from other kingdoms, ignoring the suffering they could cause and the fact that they could obtain the resources they need in a much more diplomatic way. I haven't betrayed anything or anybody, it's the kingdom who betrayed its own sense of morality. Ladros' eyes narrowed seriously before they went back to their playful demeanor. Betrayed its own sense of morality. So, that's perfectly fine by me. I remember reading that back in the old days, the Diamond Kingdom used to act similar to kingdoms like the Clover Kingdom and the Heart Kingdom. Damn, things must have been boring as hell for them. I like our kingdom just the way it is, as well as the way we do things. That may be the way you do things, but when I used to teach you, what did I always tell you to use your magic to do? The Wind Mage asked. He looked at the Mineral Mage too. Do you remember either, Mars? Mars looked directly back at him, but once more, he didn't open his mouth. On the other hand, Ladros had no problem answering the older man's question. I honestly forget what it was, but who cares, it was most likely some bullshit we as kids ate up, it doesn't matter now, things have obviously changed. As that's so, well even if things have changed, I'll make you remember. Fanzel exclaimed as he started to fly towards him, but stopped as spells flew by him. He looked down as they came from under him and he saw 4 more soldiers. We'll get you this time. They exclaimed in unison. Shit, Fanzel muttered, not wanting to take them on at the moment, and thankfully, a savior came to grant that wish. Vortex magic. Imperial wrath of rising wind. He heard Domina exclaim. The quartet of soldiers were immediately lifted off of their movement spells and high into the air thanks to a powerful whirlwind, above himself and the 2 shining generals. And that's not it. Vortex magic. Imperial wrath of crashing wind. The woman continued as the whirlwind appeared high in the air this time, sending them down as fast as they had come up. Don't worry about the soldiers, Zell, I won't let them interfere with you, just focus on fighting those 2. The Wind Mage couldn't help but smile. Thanks a lot, Domina, after this is all over, I'm totally taking you out for dinner, he thought before his face grew serious again and he looked at the 2 mages. He raised up his sword, there would be no distractions, no interferences. This fight was just between a teacher and his students. Meanwhile, while everything was going down, Mariella zoomed through the forest, nimbly jumping from branch to branch, all the while observing everything around her for something suspicious. It's been some time since I separated from the rest. I hope that Master Fanzel, Domina, and Kenos are doing fine. I haven't been able to see them due to the denseness of these trees, she muttered. Where the hell are they? A voice asked aloud. Mariella quickly came to a stop by a tree, noticing that the sound came from behind the 3 she was on. She slowly looked back, seeing a tall, muscular man. He had short red hair in a mohawk, and beside him were 3 other mages. The Ice Mage knew exactly who the red-haired man was. Mohawk, an Earth Mage, as well as a minor leader in the Diamond Kingdom army. I didn't think he'd be here. She then looked at the trio of mages with him, taking into account what they were wearing. And by the looks of it, those 3 with him are Diamond Kingdom scouts. I wonder what they're doing here. I'm so sick of waiting. We were told by Brosnan to move on ahead and get a layout of the forest's interior as well as note the number of possible places an enemy could attack before they meet up with us. Well, 2 out of 3 of those things have happened. Where could they possibly be? What could be keeping them? Maybe they ran into some opposition. But regardless, I'm bored out of my damn mind, Mohawk said. Mariella turned back and crossed her arms. A few seconds passed before a rare grin graced her features as she took out her grimoire. If he's so bored, then why don't I come in and makes things exciting? A scout walked over to the Earth Mage. Sir, if they aren't coming, should we carry out the rest of the mission ourselves? I don't know. Our numbers are hardly enough to take on the Witch Queen if she's as powerful as they say she is, Mohawk replied. The scout was persistent. But sir, he's right, trust me, Going in alone would be a bad idea, a voice interrupted. They turned to see a mage coming at them. They could tell from the body that it was a woman, but her face was covered by a black hood that came with a black cloak that flowed in the wind. Is that a witch? One of the scouts asked. It doesn't matter. Take her down. Another scout exclaimed back as they began to take out their grimoires. Too slow, the mage thought. Ice creation magic. Assassin's blade storm. She exclaimed as she fired the multitude of ice daggers. They lodged themselves in the scouts' shoulders. Cries of pain escaped their mouths as they fell off of the branches, on their way to the ground beneath. Damn, she's quick, Mowak muttered before taking out his own grimoire. Earth magic. Jagged quills. He exclaimed as two medium-sized rocks floated beside him. They broke up into smaller pieces that were the same size and shape before shaping themselves into meticulously designed quills. He raised his hand toward the ice mage as the quills raced to her. Shit. She silently cursed as she landed on a branch and turned around, letting the quills hit the tree protecting her. Her grimoire flipped to a different page before she revealed herself again and jumped towards him. Not bad, but it's my turn again. Ice creation magic. Assassin's dagger. She equipped the weapon as she landed on the same branch as the earth mage, quickly lunging at his throat. Luckily for him, he was able to dodge it. You may be faster than the scouts, but you're not faster than me, earth magic, he was going to say. Wrong. She cut him off as she quickly turned around, slamming her free hand into his chest, sending him into the upper trunk of the tree. Ice binding magic. Sub-zero confinement, she said as ice appeared, encasing his entire body but his head while also binding him to the tree. Holy shit, who are you? Mohawk asked with a stutter, already beginning to feel the freezing effect of being trapped in ice. The ice mage took her hood off, revealing the third fugitive, Mariella, he gasped. I know you. You're Mariella. So it's true. You really did leave the Diamond Kingdom. Why you're going to regret doing so, traitor. A traitor? Well, I do suppose that's what I am, but I don't mind being a traitor. Life in the Diamond Kingdom is shit when you're an assassin. I killed others because I was scared of what the kingdom would do to me if I didn't. I did it because of my fear of death, while also knowing that every one of my targets had the same fear that I did, but I ignored it. Leaving the kingdom has set me free, so now I'm going to atone for the lives I stole, by helping others keep theirs. What bullshit. Once I free myself, why you're so dead, the earth mage threatened. Yeah, that isn't happening, Mariella simply said as she walked over to him and chopped his neck at a specific spot, knocking him out cold. There we go, now you can just die of hypothermia, either that or, she was in the middle of saying, but was interrupted as she heard the rustling of leaves. Is someone else here? She wondered quietly as she hopped from branch to see who it was, but as she located its origin, her eyes widened a bit. The ice mage saw witches, and they were hiding behind the trees. I can see you hiding there. Were you hiding from the Diamond Kingdom scouts? You don't need to worry about them anymore. I took care of them, she called out at a moderate volume. It's a woman. We can come out now, one of the witches said, joy creeping into her voice. The other witches came out too. Mariella noted that a decent number of them were present. Thank you so much, miss. We were trying to fight, but those men zoomed through the trees and we decided not to engage. I must admit, they were quite fast, for men that is. Regardless of their speed, I'm still quicker. Assassins are trained to be faster than scouts due to the danger of our missions. But going on to what she said, her sentence was very gender biased. It's just like Domina said. This is a misandrist place with misandrist people. They showed disdain to Asta because he was a man, but they trust me because I'm a woman. I could actually use this, the ice mage thought. You know, there are more of those people throughout the forest, but I have an idea to get rid of them. You in? You're just a quick one, aren't you? Lodros exclaimed as he kept firing magic bullets at Fanzel, but his former teacher either dodged them skillfully, or cut them in half with his sword. I was never able to land many hits on you during our lessons way back when. It's just like I said, Lodros, I taught you everything you know. Nothing you did there surprised me. Don't tell me all these years passed by and you haven't learned anything. Fanzel said back with a taunt. That's where you're wrong, teach. I've picked up quite a few skills since then, he responded. Alright then, let's see what those skills are. The Wind Mage said as he quickly flew over to his former student, his grimoire flipped to a page. Wind Binding Magic. Emperor of Slashing Winds, Whirlwind. At his call, he pointed his sword at the Shining General. Not even a second passed before 4 whirlwinds were conjured, each spinning around one of Lodro's limbs, effectively stopping him from any real kind of movement as well as keeping him suspended in the air. Alright, now's my chance, I'll make the most of it. Fanzel exclaimed as he quickly flew towards the bound mage, ready to strike him down, but before he did so, his mana sense went off again. Whatever attack was coming, this time, it was coming from below him. He quickly dodged whatever was coming his way. Now seeing the time to observe what was coming at him, his eyes widened as he saw that it was a big sword made of mineral. That spell may be new, but I still know where it came from, isn't that right, Mars? He looked downwards, smiling a bit when he realized he was right, but tensed up almost immediately after remembering that if not for his mana sense, the sword would have cut him in half. Mineral creation magic. Levadine, Mars thought as he flew over to Ladros. The sudden movement on Fanzel's part had caused the whirlwind he placed to disperse. You okay, Ladros? Yup. I'm just fine. You know, it sort of sounds strange that you would seem worried. Brosnan hasn't returned from her battle, meaning that until she does, we're the ones who have to complete this mission, and it'd be better of us to have each other's backs, Mars simply replied. Have each other's backs? I guess I appreciate it, but don't expect me to be watching yours. I'll be a little too busy taking out the traitor, the blonde general said as he began to shoot a volley of bullets towards Fanzel. Damn, that's a lot. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, blustering force. The wind mage exclaimed as he raised his sword into the air. Wind then began to blow powerfully around before condensing to form a barrier of rotating wind, and the barrier did its job well as it repelled all of the bullets. Well shit, didn't know he could do that, Ladros stated. Hey Mars, he was about to say, but the mineral mage had already zoomed downwards. Never mind, you're already on it. Mars raised his hand up, signaling Levadine to do the same, but he brought his hand down not long after doing so. Fanzel quickly dissipated his protection spell before flying around the humongous sword to evade it, but then he flew to be just a few inches above Mars as he blasted him down with basic wind from his hand, sending the mineral mage down. But then, he started flying towards Ladros. Come at me, give it everything you got. Ladros exclaimed as he noticed his former teacher flying straight at him. Okay then, remember that you asked for it. Fanzel exclaimed as he jumped off of his sword, his grimoire flipping to a page. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, Gale. His declaration was triumphant as he struck Ladros with a thrust of his sword. At the same time, he was being shot with rapid bullets of wind. Ah, Ladros screamed. Damn, wasn't expecting it to hurt this bad. You asked for everything I had, so now I'm giving it. Fanzel exclaimed back. Please, no more, I can't take it. The blonde general screamed once more, but then, he suddenly stopped. Huh, the wind mage thought, his attack was still going on, why wasn't Ladros making any more noise? The posture which the red-haired man had taken to attack had him looking at Ladros' chest, so he looked up, but once he did, his face contorted to one of horror. On the general's face was an evil, sadistic look that could only really come from a person who's gone totally insane, but then he opened his mouth. I'm full. You're full. Fanzel was beyond confused as he ended his attack and boosted himself back onto his sword as he looked at Ladros. Hey Teach, do you remember what made me different, from all the students you used to teach that is? Ladros asked, his tone having a familiar seriousness to it. Fanzel's eyes narrowed, he knew what his former student was talking about. Yes, I could never forget. You don't have an attribute. Wind, vortex, flame, water, spatial, every mage who's born is born with an attribute in which their magic is affiliated with, but you weren't born with that. That's right, and I remember all the older kids and adults who would ridicule me because of it, thinking that I was the product of a failed experiment, but there was someone who didn't care about that, and it was you. You treated me just like you did with all your other students, you even told me that despite what was wrong with me, I had the potential for greatness, life with you in it became so much happier, I adored you, but then, Ladros began. Fanzel raised a brow. But then you left. The general exclaimed angrily for the first time that day. The ridicule returned, the confidence that I had built up slowly began to crumble since you weren't here to encourage me. You said earlier that you haven't betrayed anyone or anybody, but you're wrong, because you betrayed me. Everything went back to how it used to be, back to nobody caring, back to everyone mocking, so I decided to change. The wind mage looked down with some guilt in his eyes. Ladros, he began thinking, but didn't know what to possibly say. I screwed over bonds, and the happiness one feels because of someone else. I dedicated myself to the Diamond Kingdom and rose up the ranks, doing whatever was necessary. I gave my adoration to others, but unlike how it was with you, the objects of my adoration merely acted as a checkpoint of power I wished to surpass, with a little respect laced into it as well since they earned their place. And of course, that leaves friends. I left that in the dust. People were free to say what they wished, think what they wished, and do what they wished, as you showed me. It's never guaranteed they'll stick around, especially during the time you need them the most, but you know something. Ladros went on another rant before asking. No, what? Fanzel asked. That I ended up liking it. The general exclaimed, the playful tone returning once again. All that friendship and bonds and morals crap are so constricting, not having to worry about anything or anyone just makes me feel so free, all I have to worry about is me, which then led to this thing right here, he pointed a thumb at a crystal embedded in his chest. A little while back, Morris implanted this crystal into me during one of his genius experiments, which gives me a neat little ability called absorption and emission. So, is that why you didn't seem to be affected by my spell after some time? but seeing that you stated you were full, there is a limit of magic that you can absorb, the Wind Mage deduced. True, but I've got tons of magic stored in here, and even though the ability is called absorption and emission, it didn't really roll off the tongue, so I gave it a new name, basic magic. Fanzel narrowed his eyes. Basic magic, he thought, but then he pushed it aside as there was something he had to handle first. Look, Ladros, I'm sorry that you feel like I abandoned you. You know I would never intentionally try to hurt one of my students, but I had to leave, I just couldn't fight for this kingdom anymore. Hey, you don't need to apologize. There are times when I think that if you stayed, so much stuff would have changed, but as I said, I don't mind, I like how I am now, and while the past me resented you for it, the present me couldn't thank you enough, Ladros finished. I'm sorry, Ladros, I didn't know how much my leaving did to you. It seems I have more to atone for, Fanzel thought, but was dragged out as Ladros began speaking again. But now storytime is over. We have a fight to return to. I have to release all this magic you so gratefully gave me, he said. Of all the attacks I can use with basic magic, there's one that's undoubtedly my favorite. I hope you don't have anyone in that forest that you're close to, teach, because I'm about to make them all disappear. Fanzel widened his eyes. No, Mariella is in there, as well as the other witches. He thought as he began flying over there, ignoring the maniacal laughter coming from Ladros. I hope you don't mind that I named this after one of your spells, Brosnan, he thought as he grinned. Basic magic. Million lasers. Just like with the GoldenEye Mage's spell, a translucent white orb encased Ladros' whole body as lasers came out from it indiscriminately, traveling in every direction. What the? Domina wondered aloud as she was fighting soldiers. She then heard Ladros' loud exclamation, and was soon met with a large cloud of dust. Shit, what did Ladros cast? She thought as the dust eventually did settle, but once she was able to see, her eyes widened. A whole part of the forest had been virtually cleared, the luscious green that she had grown accustomed to was now gone, but then she noticed something else. It was a good distance away, but in the now barren section, the bright color of red hair was easily visible, and she knew who that hair belonged to. No, Zell, she exclaimed as she flew down as fast as she could. Once she landed about 6 yards away from where she was planning to land, she saw Fanzel. He was laying down on the ground. Both his emperor sword and his hovering sword was gone, but thankfully, his hand twitched, showing that he was still alive. Don't worry, I'm coming. The Vortex Mage exclaimed as she started to run to him, but she stopped and gasped when she saw Ladros and Mars land next to him. So, it seems you survived, and it looks like you suffered minimal damage too, Ladros said before scanning in front of him. But I'm not seeing any dead bodies, so I guess there was nobody here. What a bummer. He then looked back at the spiky-haired general. See Mars, I nearly took him down. Hey, a voice exclaimed. The two generals turned to see Domina a good distance away. Ladros chuckled. Ah, there's one, but she's on her feet. Get away from him. Vortex magic. Imperial wrath of tornado. She exclaimed as she sent a large tornado towards them, ready to shoot them away and give her a chance to take her husband and hide. Don't worry, I've got this. I'm a bit hungry anyway, Ladros said as he jumped in front of the tornado, but to Domina's surprise, the basic mage completely absorbed it. There we go. No way, what did he do? Domina wondered to herself, but she brushed the worry away. She had no time for that, she had to get to Fanzel. There's something else I can do, vortex magic. Her chant was interrupted as Ladros suddenly appeared in front of her. He grabbed her collar and lifted her into the air. No more casting for you. So fast, the vortex mage stuttered. You can thank my magic for that. Basic magic. Quick flash, just a common speed boosting spell in which I emit the magic I absorb behind me to move faster, Ladros explained, but then he looked at the woman again before grinning. Oh, Dominant, the teacher's lovely wife and fellow traitor, I almost didn't recognize you from so far away. I thought you were still fighting the soldiers. He walked back to the other two. Since we have this time to chat, I want to know, how's home life going? You keeping the teach healthy? Have you made any kids yet? I'm not telling you anything, so you can just shut up. Domina exclaimed. Oh, feisty, but what's wrong with chatting? Just trying to be friendly. Before I kill you that is, the basic mage said as he tone shifted from playful to threatening. You're not going to succeed then, I won't die here. Domina exclaimed defiantly. I'm going to live, for the sake of my future, but more importantly than that, for my desire to protect Fanzel. While Ladros didn't seem overly moved by her declaration, the same couldn't be said for Mars, the mineral mage, who so far hasn't said much, remembered something from his past, from a happier time. Flashback. Years ago. The Diamond Kingdom. Nice try, Mars, try adding more power to your step, a younger Fanzel said. Within the outdoor area of a training facility in the Diamond Kingdom, the Wind Mage, back when he was still a commander, was in the middle of one of his lessons with his students. At the moment, he was training with a young Mars and Ladros, with Mars and Fanzel fighting with wooden swords while Ladros was using his magic to add Mars from a distance. Yes sir. Mars replied enthusiastically as he did so, Forcing Fanzel to a minor defensive stance, he spoke up again. Ladros, now. I'm on it. Ladros responded as he fired small magic bullets at his teacher. Mars quickly ducked to make sure they wouldn't hit him. Fanzel easily cut the attacks in half. Nice teamwork and communication, but sometimes during missions, communication can be compromising, so eventually, learn how to act together without talking to one another. Yes, sir. They replied in unison. Fanzel smiled. Good, now come at me again, he said as he once more engaged Mars in sword combat. Ladros watched carefully as the two clashed multiple times. He then saw Mars strike before moving to the side, ready to attack another way, but the future basic mage used that chance to fire 2 bullets. A proud smile came to Fanzel's face. Good Ladros, using an unintentional opening, now it's your turn to impress me, Mars. Okay, I'll do my best, he said back before running at his teacher. Time to see, the wind mage muttered as he put his hand up and blasted a small level of wind, but it wasn't aimed at the future mineral mage, but rather, his partner. Unfortunately, Mars noticed that it wasn't coming at him, and therefore ignored as his partner softly fell to the ground. Alright, that's enough, Fanzel said with a clap. Mars put his sword down as the older man walked over to him. Did I do something wrong? The child asked innocently. Not exactly, your movements were impressive, but there was a mistake you made. When I shot my wind at Ladros, you ignored it instead of trying to stop it and keep your partner safe, he explained. And what did I always tell you to do with your magic? We are to use our magic to protect the people of this kingdom. The students all replied together. Fanzel gave a smile that would even make the proudest father jealous. Good, make sure to remember that, and I assure you that you all will be great mages someday. End flashback. Protect Fanzel. No offense, but how is that working for you? Ladros asked sarcastically. I don't know whether I should kill you first, or my old teach. Wait. Ladros, a voice weakly stated. They all looked down to see Fanzel, his arm struggling to stay up. Don't kill her. Your quarrel is with me, I'm the one you have a grudge against. Sorry there teach, but you know that I can't do that, she's a traitor too, Ladros said. So, I've decided, she'll die first, and you'll get to watch. He then threw her into the air. Domina. The wind mage screamed. With how close they were, he knew she didn't have enough time to counter it with a spell. Ladros fired a large magic bullet, ready to take the woman's life. She braced herself, but the time never came. She slowly opened her eyes as they widened, with Fanzel's doing the same. Protect others. Domina's savior came in the form of the mineral mage, Mars. Those 2 words left his mouth as he used Levadine to cut the bullet in half, as well as carrying Domina in his arms. Master Fanzel, what you always told us to use our magic for when we were your students, it was, to protect others, he said. Fanzel was beyond grateful. Thank you, Mars, thank you for remembering. Ladros on the other hand was not so pleased. So, we got another traitor, and to top it off, Brosnan still isn't back. Must I be the only one to get shit done around here? Well, no matter, I'll take care of you too, the basic mage said as he fired magic bullets, but Mars blocked it with his sword. Sorry, Ladros, but I won't let you, Mars said, but just then, in the extremely far distance, everyone saw a pillar of flame erupt into the sky. What the? Fanzel wondered to himself. That place looks pretty far away. It must be where Asta and his friends are fighting the Eye of the Midnight Sun. That pillar must have come from a strong source because I'm feeling a huge surge of magic. His eyes then widened as he remembered something important. So, is that why you didn't seem to be affected by my spell after some time? But seeing that you stated you were full, there is a limit of magic that you can absorb, he recalled himself saying after learning of Ladros' ability. The wind mage gathered his strength and stood up. Wind creation magic. Emperor of slashing winds, hovering swords. He exclaimed as he hopped on one. Mars, I'm going to need you to follow me, I have a plan. Alright, he replied as he put Domina down and hopped onto another sword. You're kidding yourselves if you think I'm just going to let 2 traitors get away, Ladros said. That's what we're counting on, the wind mage thought, but then, he saw something in the sky. Shit. Coming right at them was what remained of the diamond soldiers, which was still a decent number, and based on the dirty look on some of them, their numbers also comprised of soldiers who had been sent to the ground. We will not fail our mission. They exclaimed. Damn it, I left my fight with them to come to Zell, Domina said as she got ready to battle, but a familiar voice caught her attention. There they are. Attack. The vortex mage turned around before a grin appeared on her face. Not too far away, she saw the ice mage, and behind her was what looked like an army of witches, all flying on their broomsticks. You're going to pay for destroying our forest. They exclaimed as they took out their wand and fired at the soldiers. Mariella. Domina exclaimed before waving. The former assassin heard her and waved back. The vortex mage then turned to her husband. Zell, you and Mars continue your plan, I'll stay to help the witches. And Mars, thank you for saving me. You're welcome, Mars simply responded with a respectful nod. But Domina, the witches, and you, Fanzel said with worry. His wife knew what he was concerned about. Don't worry, with what's going on, I don't think they'll be paying attention to an outcasted witch, now go. All right then, he said as the two flew towards the pillar of flame. Still not letting you escape. Ladros bellowed as he summoned his mode of transportation and pursued the two traitors. Fanzel turned around and Ladros on their tail. Let's just hope this works, he thought. The rest of the way to their destination was silent, but the stakes couldn't be higher. Chapter 53. Flames of Rebirth. Hey there, readers, Day 3 has come and with it a new chapter. We're officially halfway there, enjoy. CYA. A few seconds passed before the pillar of flame disappeared, the split body of the great fire spirit hit the ground, with Fana landing on its upper half. Nice work, Asta. Finral called as he made a portal for the magicless mage. He went through it and landed on the ground, his squadmates landing their brooms right next to him. Did you see that? That was totally awesome. The swordsman exclaimed happily as he jumped up and down. Thank you so much, Finral, Vanessa. Don't mention it. It's pretty easy to see that the three of us make a good team. You clearly make the most of our strengths, Asta, the thread mage said with a smile. Hey, what about me? I helped too, you know. It'd be nice to get some praise, Noelle said with her eyes closed and her arms crossed. Vanessa walked up to her and slung an arm around her shoulder. Ah, look at you, just wanting some validation. Well, you've earned it. Your attack might have not destroyed Salamander, but we were beyond impressed, so good job. She patted the younger girl's head. The water mage's cheek blossomed into a light tint of pink. Thank you. Finral then spoke up. Do you think we should check on Fana? We might have taken down Salamander, but it's very likely that Fana is still in the fight. Good idea. We shouldn't take any chances, Asta agreed as they all ran to where they saw the pillar erupting some time ago. It didn't take them too long to arrive at their destination. As they looked on ahead, they saw that it was just as the spatial mage had said, with the fire spirit's body cut in half. It was practically out of commission, but Fana had slowly begun to get back up. Damn humans, who'd have thought that the swords thief was capable of such a maneuver, the flame mage muttered, but once she had fully gotten back on her feet, her eyes immediately fell on the group of black bulls. You might have been able to take down Salamander, but I'm a different story. I'm going to kill all of you, even if it costs me my life. She then hopped off of the spirit's upper body as her grimoire flipped through pages before stopping on one. Flame magic. Twisting inferno. She exclaimed as fire grew on her hands and she launched the spell. Even if it costs you your life. Asta quietly muttered. He then ran towards the spell and cut it in half. Don't say that. Fana was confused. I'm sorry, what? You said that you're going to kill us, even if it costs you your own life. Don't say that. Don't take your life for granted. We mustn't take anything for granted, he said as he stared down at his arms. Besides, we may be enemies, but I take it you have friends. Don't you think they'll be bummed after hearing you gave your own life away? How do you think they will feel? As he said those words, Fana's eyes suddenly widened. In the commotion of everything going on, she remembered what she promised before coming to this place. Wait, Annalise called. Fana turned to her. I know why you don't want me to go. You'll think I'll get hurt if we have to face that queen, but promise me that you'll come back. I don't want to lose you. Fana gave her a small smile. I promise. The flame mage bit her lip tightly until it drew blood. Damn it, she thought before she opened her mouth. Don't you dare. It was Asta's turn to be confused. Huh, don't you dare. Talk about my friends, keep the mention of them out of your filthy mouth. Fana screamed at the top of her lungs as a dark red aura began emanating from her third eye, but in just a few seconds, it began surging. Behind her, Salamander's split body became surrounded in an aura of the same color. But what truly surprised the group of magic knights was how strands started stretching from the two parts of its physical form, the strands with each other as the body began to reconnect itself. The fire spirit then stood behind its master, but it very easy to see that Salamander had gotten smaller. It was now just about 6 feet taller than the flame mage. What? Salamander isn't done. But how? We gave that last attack everything we had. Can the fire spirit be defeated? Vanessa said. Concern was obvious in her voice. She then took out a bundle of her threads. It did get smaller though. Maybe I can bind it. She launched half a dozen of threads towards Salamander, but shock appeared on her face as she saw that once the threads got close enough, they got incinerated in a matter of seconds. No way. My threads. They burned, and so quickly too. Okay. Things have changed. Unlike last time, Salamander is somehow exuding more powerful mana. We need to keep our distance. What about your dragon spell, Noelle? Finral asked as he turned to the water mage. It's a long-range attack, and you still have the attribute advantage. It's our best shot so far. You're right. Leave it to me, Noelle responded as she pointed her wand at the flame mage and her spirit companion. Water creation magic. Sea dragons. I won't let you use that spell of yours this time. Flame spirit magic. Salamander's breath. Fana exclaimed. cutting Noel off as the spirit fired its basic attack at them. Don't worry, Noel. Let me handle this. I'll cut that fireball right in half, Asta said as he ran in front of his squadmate ready to jump in the air and slice the familiar spell, but before he got his body into the air, a voice called out to him. Wait, Asta. The magicless mage quickly turned his head to where he heard the exclamation come from, a good distance away, but regardless, he saw two familiar faces. Fanzel and Mars. Old Man Zell, Asta said with a smile on his face. Use your sword to deflect that fireball towards us, I have a plan. The Wind Mage exclaimed. I don't know what plan you have in mind, but you know that I trust you, so here you go. The swordsman yelled as he did what he was told and deflected it towards the diamond fugitive instead of cutting it like he initially planned. Nice work, Asta, Fanzel muttered, but was soon alerted by a voice behind him. Oh Fanzel, Mars, I'm catching up to you, and once I catch you, this diamond kingdom will have to worry about 2 fewer traitors, Ladros said. His tone was sarcastic, but by now, they knew that regardless, it was deadly. Wrong. We won't die, because you won't catch up with us, the Wind Mage whispered before turning to Mars. On my signal, when I saw now, you move to the far left, and I'll move to the far right, the Mineral Mage nodded. Fanzel watched as the fireball got closer to them, and closer, and closer, and closer, and then, it was time. Now, he exclaimed as they both moved in their respective directions, letting the fireball hit Ladros instead of them. What the hell is this? Ladros screamed in pain. Fanzel smirked. You told me I was right when you said there was a limit of magic you could absorb. That was your one mistake. All I had to do was lead you to a place with strong magic and have you get hit with one of its spells, then bam. Thankfully for us, that spell you got hit with is spirit magic. Spirit magic. No, it's too powerful. I've never absorbed something this strong before. Ah. The basic mage exclaimed as he could no longer keep his balance and he began falling into the dense group of trees which made up a part of the forest. Good. That's one enemy eliminated. Let's regroup with the knights down there, Fanzel told his traveling companion. The two then flew down to where the black bulls were before hopping off of their swords as they disappeared. Hey there, old man Zell, Asta greeted. Quick question, what did you exactly need me to send a fireball at you for? There was someone right on our tail. I told you to deflect it so we can move out of the way and let the spell hit him instead, and it worked like a charm. Good work, the Wind Mage explained. Okay. But where are Kenos, and the others? They didn't come with you. The magicless mage asked once again. No, Kenos got separated from us a little while ago. As for Domina and Mariella, they're still where we used to be, fighting off the remainder of the Diamond Army while we came here to eliminate that mage from earlier, Fanzel replied again. I see, and speaking of we, there's something else I want to know, Asta said, pointing at the elephant in the room that was Mars. What is he doing here? I'm glad you were able to escape the dungeon, but why is he here with you? You don't have anything to worry about, Asta. Mars is on our side, I assure you, Fanzel told him. What Fanzel says is true, Mars added as he turned to Asta. I know that we used to be enemies, but that's before I remembered what Fanzel taught as a boy, that magic should be used to protect others. Asta looked at the Wind Mage before looking at the Mineral Mage. Alright then, if old man Zell says we can trust you, then we can trust you. Well that's good, because we're going to need as much help as we can get if we want to win this fight, Finral said as he pointed. The two newcomers looked in the direction to see who exactly were they facing up against, but once they did, Mars' eyes widened in surprise for the first time that day. No way, that face, and that hair, could it be, but that's impossible, but still, Mars thought to himself before walking a few inches towards the enemy, he then came to a stop and opened his mouth. Fana. The expressions of the others behind Mars became those of shock. Vanessa spoke up. What, you know her? I think so, Master Fanzel, that looks like Fana, right? He asked his former teacher. The Wind Mage looked closer at her. I think you might be right, it could be Fana, one of my old students, but how is she alive? She shouldn't be after the evaluation. Mars' eyes tensed upon hearing that word. Another memory came to the surface, but unlike the last one, it wasn't happy. In fact, it was the worst day of his life. Flashback. Years ago. The Diamond Kingdom. Alright children, take out your grimoires, it's time to begin. The evaluation, a voice spoke as it echoed. One day, after years of training, children were taken to a primarily dark room with hues of red all around. The voice that spoke earlier spoke through some kind of intercom-like device. None of the new mages knew what was going on, but their question would soon be answered. For this evaluation, the rules are simple: survive. Kill all the other mages in this room. The last one standing among you will undergo a very special experiment and will be allowed to leave the facility. The voice explained the rules and the prize that came with coming out victorious. Multiple sets of gasps escaped the children's mouths. All of them had been brought to the facility as infants, meaning they've never really seen the outside, or would ever get to, at least, until now. this was a chance they had to take full advantage of. Okay. Begin, the voice spoke. Begin. Mars asked himself as he heard that word. Immediately, he saw fighting around him. The children took out their grimoires and cast their spells, killing whoever they saw. The mineral mage began looking around, his eyes widening over and over again as he saw blood being shed for the first time in his life. Hey, there's one, he heard a voice behind him. Mars turned to see a boy, blood stained his clothes and face. Sorry, but you have to die, I'll finally get to leave this place. Fear overtook Mars as his grimoire came up to him and flipped to the only spell he had so far in his repertoire. Stay back. Mineral creation magic. Harp. He exclaimed as he closed his eyes and launched the spinning blade. He then heard two different things hit the ground. But as he opened his eyes to see what fell, he wanted to puke. The first thing that fell was the boy's grimoire. Its aura was gone and its form cracking away. As for the second thing, it was the boy's head, his eyes still open. The look of fear was found in them. The body fell to its knees before dropping to the ground. Oh my god. I hope that Ladros isn't here, he muttered, but then another voice spoke behind him. Mars. The mineral quickly turned around to see who it was, his fear not letting sound alone discern person from person, but once he saw who it was, his eyes widened as he opened his mouth. Fana. Before him was the pink-haired girl, just like the boy he had just murdered. Blood was around her too, but it was a lot more blood, which meant she had killed a lot more people, and so fast too. Wait. Fana, I don't want to fight you, you're my friend, I don't want to hurt you. The boy exclaimed. The girl slowly began walking towards him with a bit of limp, showing that the previous victims of her murders gave quite the fight. Mars, I don't want to fight you either, you mean so much to me, more than you could ever know, but I want to see the outside world, to see everything it has to offer, so forgive me. You have to die. She then started running at him. Please Fana, don't make me do this. Mars yelled as he closed his eyes and raised both of his hands in an attempt to form a wall between him and Fana, but then he heard a new sound. It wasn't the sound of something dropping. Fear of what it could possibly be told him to keep his eyes closed, but he just had to open them. In front of him, there was a tall hill made of minerals. He kept looking up before his eyes widened. The new sound he heard, it was the sound of his mineral hill piercing Fana's stomach. Fana, he said quietly. A single tear dropped down his face, and it didn't take long before more joined it as the boy started shaking his head. No. No. No, he began whispering as he dropped to his knees. No. End flashback. After the evaluation, I was the last one standing, so I underwent the experiment to create the world's first dual mage. They found a way to sustain Fana's grimoire despite the fact that she was dead. The scientists used a procedure to stitch halves of our grimoires together, Mars explained. Then that explains how she used one of your spells against us earlier, Noel mentioned. I even assumed that she could have been your sister, but she said she had no siblings, Asta added. Mars looked at the two before looking back at the flame mage. Then that's definitely my Fana, I have to call out to her, he said. Fana, it's me, Mars, from the Diamond Kingdom. Don't you recognize me? We're friends. Fana looked at the man who was yelling to her, her brow raised in confusion. Mars, I don't know anybody by that name, but regardless, I'd never be friends with someone like you. Mars' eyes widened in surprise, taken aback by her words. Stop joking around, we know each other, tell me, how did you survive the evaluation? What evaluation? Look, I don't know you, I've never known you, all I do know about you is that you're a human, and that means you must die. It was Fanzel's turn to speak up. This is strange, why doesn't she recognize you? He wondered aloud before he noticed something strange on the girl's body that genuinely shocked him. Wait, there, on Fana's forehead, is that an eye? Yeah, from what we've seen so far, Fana is part of a trio within the Eye of the Midnight Sun called the Third Eye, and it seems this is why their members can create a third eye on their forehead, Asta replied with an explanation. For now, we know that the eye can boost the mage's power, but if Fana is from the Diamond Kingdom and the Eye of the Midnight Sun was somehow able to recruit, perhaps the third eye is capable of controlling her too. It could already explain how she's here despite the fact that you killed her, Noel added. Does that mean there can be a way to remove the eye? Finneral asked. Maybe, but there's most likely a low chance that that can happen, Vanessa told him. I don't care if there's a low chance, as long as there's a chance, I'll take it, I'm going to make things right, I bet she's suffered a lot, the mineral mage said adamantly. Asta put the demon dweller back in his grimoire as he drew his large sword up. Okay then, let's save her, he exclaimed. Fana heard what he said as a rare chuckle escaped her mouth. Save me, that's where you're wrong, human, I'm not the one who's going to need saving, you've all left me no choice, I'll eliminate all of you at the same time. She exclaimed as a familiar dark red sphere surrounded her body as Salamander roared into the sky. Wait a minute, I recognize that, isn't that the self-destruct thing Veto tried to use against us in the underwater temple? Finneral asked. It is, but unlike last time, Captain Yami isn't here to use that dimension slash of his to solve the problem, Noel replied before saying. Not to mention we plan on saving her this time around. Talk about making things a lot more difficult, Vanessa stated. Please forgive me, Annalise, I wasn't able to keep my promise, but at least one of the greatest threats to our cause will be no more, the flame mage thought before she looked up at the fire spirit. Salamander, this will take me some time to release, I'm going to need you to buy me a few minutes. The spirit roared in response as it began firing large fireballs at the group of adversaries in an attempt to keep them away from its master. Be careful everyone, Fanzel exclaimed as his grimoire flipped to a page and he formed his wind sword, it then flipped to another page. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, blustering force. As he declared the second spell, he raised the sword up, forming the rotating wind barrier, but after a mere 3 fireballs hit it, the barrier dissipated. Fanzel dropped to his knees. Damn it, my spell isn't made to handle high-level offensive spells. Then don't worry, I'll handle this one, Noelle said to him as her grimoire flipped to the page of its first ever spell. Water creation magic. Sea Dragon's Lair. She exclaimed as she formed the barrier of water, protecting her, Finral, Vanessa, and Fanzel, but since Asta and Mars were out the range of her spell, they were unprotected. Asta saw a fireball coming his way. I don't need to be protected by Noelle's spell, these attacks won't hit me. He exclaimed as he used the Demon Slayer to cut the fiery attack in half. The swordsman then looked to see how the mineral mage was handling himself since he also wasn't being protected by the water mage's spell. He saw that a fireball was coming at him, but unlike his own performance, the spiky-haired general had done nothing to protect himself as the attack hit him, warranting gasps from the others. Mars, what are you doing? Protect yourself. No, I can't, Fana must have suffered so much, if I'm going to save her, I must suffer the same as she did, it only makes sense, Mars protested. So. His next words were cut off as Asta ran up to him and slapped him in the face. It only makes sense. That is by far the worst bullshit logic I've ever heard in my life. If you're truly going to save her, you'll need to stay alive first, don't do anything rash, you may not be a magic knight, but you're still a mage, you have to remain calm and think with a cool head. Mars grit his teeth as he hung his head down. You're right, my bad. Asta was a bit taken aback by how easily he and Mars were talking to each other despite the fact that the last time they met, one mage was trying to kill the other. He was also surprised at how easily Mars accepted his advice, the swordsman smiled. No problem, now let's go and save her the right way. But, how, is there any way to stop this self-destruct bomb? Mars then asked. There is one way, Asta replied as he looked at his sword. No matter how strong it is, this bomb is still made of magic, meaning there's a chance my sword can nullify it. Wait, that's too dangerous, Vanessa said as Noelle dropped the barrier. My threads burned once they got near her, and you'll need to get near her if you want to negate her bomb spell, you won't make it. We don't know that for sure, our bodies are stronger than thread, we may have a better chance of getting close enough, Asta protested. Besides, it's the only bet we have, it's either that, or we all die. The thread mage sighed, knowing the swordsman had a point. You're right, then I guess there's no stopping you, just be careful. Should I teleport you closer? Finral asked. No, we'll take the straightforward route, if you make a portal, Salamander could send a fireball through it, Asta replied before looking at the mineral mage. You ready, Mars? I am, he replied, the magicless mage nodded before they slowly began walking forward. Salamander, keep them back. Fana exclaimed as Salamander fired a quick succession of 2 fireballs at the duo of mages. Don't worry, I got you too, spatial magic, fallen angels twin gates. Finral exclaimed as he formed 2 portals in front of Asta and Mars, as well as 2 portals on opposite sides of Salamander's head. The fireballs went into the first set of portals and came out of the second one, hitting the spirit right in the head, causing it to roar in pain. Just keep going. Thanks. The 2 mages said in unison as they continued. A few seconds passed before they began to feel the strong heat of Salamander's aura. Damn it, that's really hot, a lot hotter than I was first expecting, Asta grunted. Tell me about it. I have something that should help us, flame recovery magic. Phoenix robe, Mars said before casting as the 2 were cloaked in a protective red aura with a single wing sprouting out. Ah, thanks a bunch, I'm feeling better, but it still kind of burns, the swordsman said gratefully. True, but we'll just have to endure it, the mineral said back. Thanks to your friend's move with his spatial magic, I don't think Salamander will be able to attack for a little while, this is our best chance. Further away, Fanzel watched his 2 students slowly trek towards Fana, he bit his lip before turning to the other black bulls. We need to make some distance from them, just in case something happens. No, they all replied in unison. No, Fanzel repeated. We won't leave them, we may not be the ones doing it, but we must stay here, to show that we trust them, Noelle told him. Asta and Mars mean a lot to you, don't you trust them enough to stay here? I do trust them, but, you're right, we all have to see this through until the end, and provide support when needed, the Wind Mage replied with a smile. Asta and Mars continued making their way to Fana, but their pace had begun to slow down. Even with the Phoenix robe, the immense heat was taking its toll. Damn, this is starting to become unbearable, Mars silently muttered to himself. He then felt the burning feeling increase. He looked down to see his shirt and cape slowly incinerating, with small holes appearing on his pants. The mineral mage turned to Asta and saw that the same thing was happening to him. Although his robe looked unaffected, regardless, there was an adamant look on his face. Wow, to believe that just about a few months ago, I was trying to kill him and his friends, and despite that, he's enduring so much to help me get Fana back, even going as far as to set me straight so I don't die. Asta, you're a true mage, and even though it's not official between us, you're a good friend, he thought with a smile. Yo, Mars, you need something, you're staring at me, Asta said, pulling Mars out of his thoughts. Nothing, just thinking to myself, we're getting closer, Mars replied. Fana put a hand up to her eye. It'll be ready to release soon, just 10 more seconds. We have to pick up the pace. Asta yelled. 9. Right, Mars responded as they did so, but it was only fast walking. 8. Come on you two, just a little closer. Fanzel exclaimed. 7. We're right here, we know you can make it. Finneral joined in. 6. He's right, we trust you, Vanessa added. 5. None of us are going to die here. Noel finished. 4. This is the end of you. Fana screamed. 3. No, you're wrong. Asta screamed back as he and Mars finally reached the proper range, the former gripping his sword tightly with 2 hands as he jumped into the air. 2. I'm not going to let it end. The swordsman exclaimed fiercely as he dropped and the sword slashed through the sphere. 1. The aura sphere around Fana and the blazing aura salamander was producing were nullified simultaneously, the action resulting in a large amount of wind pressure. Mars crossed his arms, as did Asta, but it didn't stop the wind from blowing his robe off of him, revealing his naked upper body, with the same being true for the mineral mage. All right, they did it. The others cheered happily. Nice work, Asta, Mars said with a grin. The same grin appeared on the magicless mage's face. I couldn't have done it without you, that phoenix robe with mega handy. If we didn't have it, it'd be pretty safe to say we'd be turned into roasted potatoes. No, it's not over yet. The sudden sound of Fana's voice caused the 2 boys to turn to her, but the fire spirit was no longer present behind her. It isn't over yet. Just because you stopped my bomb from going off this time, doesn't mean I can't use another one. I'll just establish more distance and redo it, the flame mage said. Asta brought his sword back up. We won't let you do that. We're going to, he was beginning to say, but stopped as he saw Mars start running towards her. Once he got close enough, he pulled her into a tight hug as a taller phoenix robe covered them both. Fana, I know you may not recognize me the way you are now, but still, I want to say that I'm sorry for what happened all those years ago. I know it looked like I had no choice, but I should have found a different way to handle it, and I know that you're sorry too, but now we've gotten what we wanted, a chance to go outside. So please, come back to me, let's go and see what the world has to offer, together. The flame mage was speechless, as she finished listening to Mars' words, a faint yet fuzzy memory replayed in her head. Oh Fana, look how these humans have hurt you and thrown you away, come with me, our friends are waiting. You can begin a new life. She remembered a man with white braids wearing a white robe said to her as he extended his hand out, waiting for her to take it. Her face then became one of neutral shock as the flames of the phoenix robe died, healing both of their wounds, but the third eye on Fana's forehead began to slowly disappear, until it was fully gone. Her shocked expression then became normal before she opened her mouth. I'm sorry too, Mars gasped as he looked down at the girl, who was smiling warmly at him as tears rolled down her face. You're right, we're both here, so let's do it, let's go see the world, Mars. The mineral mage couldn't keep tears from falling down his own face. Fana, you're back, I missed you so much. Same here, you've gotten so tall, she said back. The others smiled as they walked to the 2 reunited friends. It's good to see we succeeded, but still, how exactly did Fana's third eye disappear? Noel wondered aloud. Does it have to do with a certain threshold of some kind, or even a memory? There's still much we don't know about it. The third eye are the biggest threats the Eye of the Midnight Sun has apart from this licht I've heard about. Knowing something about them would give us a great advantage. Whatever the reasoning may be, I'm just glad it was able to bring Fana back to me, Mars told her as he hugged the flame mage tighter. Mars, Fana said. Yes, would you mind letting go of me now? For the first time ever, the group saw the mineral mage's cheeks go red as he quickly let the pink-haired woman go and backed up a bit. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was making you uncomfortable. Even more surprise came as they saw Fana's cheeks go red too. And no, it wasn't like that. You didn't make me feel uncomfortable. In all honesty, it felt kind of nice. I wouldn't mind if you did it again. Vanessa looked at the 2, a sly grin coming to her face. My, what's going on here? From what I've heard, These are two of the most nonchalant people you've ever faced off against. I didn't know they could be so shy, especially around each other. I wonder why. Those words just made the faces of the two friends grow redder. They put their heads down to avoid looking at each other. Fanzel looked at them and gave a warm smile. Domina and I are going to need to talk to them later, but for now all is well. This is a time to celebrate. Once we find Kenos, that is, the Eye of the Midnight Sun has been defeated, the Diamond Army has been subdued by the witches, and Ladros is. The Wind Mage was in the middle of his thought, but it was cut short as he picked up on a large mana signature. He turned, seeing that everyone but Asta noticed it too. Where's that mana coming from? What? You don't recognize my mana? That's a bit hurtful, don't you think? Teach. Those words made Fanzel's eyes widen. They all turned around to see Ladros coming out from the trees, his clothes a bit dirty, but other than that, his body appeared unscathed. That's impossible. How did you survive? That should have finished you. Fanzel exclaimed. Don't underestimate the genius of the Diamond Kingdom. What I thought was too much power was in fact too much for my body to absorb immediately at that time, but it eventually absorbed it over a period of time, the basic mage explained. So that means, it doesn't matter how strong the spell, there will be a point where you've absorbed all of it. Fanzel asked, the faint tone of hopelessness present. That's right, Ladros replied as he cracked his knuckles and grinned sadistically at the group of mages. And now I'm ready to fight. Chapter 54. Nothing special. How's it going there, readers? Day 4 has come, and with it, a new chapter. I hope you enjoy this one. It was a pivotal moment in the series, with a few changes of course. CYA. So, which one of you out of your little bunch of goody two-shoes and traitors are going to fight me first? Ladros asked sarcastically. Regardless, every mage present was on edge. Mars stood protectively in front of his love interest. Fana, stay behind me, I know how he fights, but you don't, we shouldn't do anything too rash against him. Okay, I'll leave it to you, Fana told him before her grimoire strangely came up to her without her usual telepathic signal. It turned to 3 separate pages, each with text on it, but then the text undid itself and they once more became blank pages. What the? I've never heard of a grimoire removing spells before, but they all had something in common. They all had the words, Flame Spirit Magic, in them. I don't recall knowing a flame spirit, although I do feel like a presence has left me. I'm so confused, she muttered to herself, but put her attention back to the impending fight. Asta stepped forward and pointed the demon slayer at Ladros. I don't know why you're talking like that, like you've already won or something, but know this, we aren't going to lose to you. Ladros looked at the swordsman, his brow raised in confusion. That's strange, I'm not picking up a mana signature from you, I thought there would at least be a low signature, but it's not even that. Who are you? My name's Asta. You won't detect any magic from me because I don't have any, the magicless mage replied without any hesitation. No magic. That's weird, but then again, I'm no stranger to unexplainable phenomenons. You see, I was born without an attribute. I have magic, but the plainest variety. Think of it like yogurt or a bagel. There are multiple flavors and toppings, but they have plain versions. That's me. My magic is as simple as it gets, Ladros explained. I suppose it must have been hard growing up. This world isn't too fond of people that are different, Asta said. I know what you mean, but maybe there are people in the world who can help us or maybe there aren't, the basic mage said with a grin, looking at Fanzel who merely turned his head away. Say, we're sort of the same, why don't we work together? We don't have to fight each other, he said, but his mind was a different story. Sorry there, kid, I know firsthand how harsh this world can be to people like us, but once you agree to join me and we take down these losers, I'm totally double-crossing you. I just hope you don't take it too bad, he thought, but his offer wasn't met with the answer he was expecting. Join you? What the hell are you talking about? I'm not going to join you. I get that the world mistreated us, but you're clearly an enemy. Ladros gave a deadpan expression for a few seconds before it turned back into its sarcastic look. Well damn, no harm in trying I guess. He then summoned his mode of transportation as he jumped on it and flew above them. I hope you don't mind if I take the high ground. I'm going to enjoy eliminating every single person here, and I'll start with you, Asta. The swordsman looked him straight in the eyes. Bring it on. I like that confidence, but let's see how long it will last. Basic magic. AE Cannon Barrage. Ladros exclaimed as the translucent white sphere surrounded him, but unlike the million lasers spell, all of the shots fired in one direction, more specifically, at Asta. The magicless mage went for the attacks head-on. Using his sword, he quickly deflected all of the bullets in other directions, and once he saw the opportunity arise, he shot one right back at its origin. Unfortunately, his move was unsuccessful as when the deflected shot finally neared Ladros, it disappeared into his translucent sphere. Sorry there, kid, but I'm afraid deflecting attacks back at me isn't going to work. Cannon Barrage. Our absorption and emission cannon barrage takes the magic I've previously absorbed and fires them as bullets in one direction of my choice. The neat thing is that in the case that my attacks are sent back at me, like now, the shot will be reabsorbed and emitted back as if nothing ever happened. Although the basic mage looked happy, Fanzel gave a small smirk. There you go again, Ladros, explaining how your magic works. Even though my plan to overload you failed, it still showed that you're fine disclosing information. I know that Asta will find a way around your spell, he thought. So, that spell of yours is unbeatable, Asta asked while in the middle of deflecting more shots. You got that right, Ladros replied with a laugh. Although there is a spell I like more, regardless, this is my most invincible spell. No magic attack of any kind can defeat it. No magic attack? The swordsman then asked, a small grin appearing on his face. Am I talking to a cave? That's what I said. I don't know why do you look happy though, there's nothing you can, the basic mage began saying smugly, but that stopped as he felt a sudden sharp pain. He slowly looked to where he felt it, and was shocked to see a short, rusty sword lodged in his shoulder. But how? While Ladros was busy boasting, he didn't notice Asta pull out the demon dweller and throw it right at him. Thanks to its properties, it was able to bypass the magic-absorbing sphere and comfortably plant itself into the blonde general's shoulder. Ladros dropped to the ground as Asta started walking to him. What did you do, brat? How did your sword hurt me? As I said, I don't have magic, but I do have these swords which have anti-magic, and with anti-magic, I can negate magic, Asta explained. Anti-magic. Ah damn it, the one power that could stop me and you're the one who uses it, just damn, Ladros said as he tried to take the sword out with his hands, but the effort was ineffective. He then put his hands up. Please, take the sword out, I surrender, you're much too strong for me, I won't attack anyone, promise. You won't attack anyone, and you'll surrender? The swordsman asked genuinely. Yes, once you take it out, I'll leave this place and never come back, you'll never see me ever again. The basic mage yelled. Is that so? Asta said as he slowly brought his hand to the handle of the demon dweller. Within Ladros' mind, he grinned. Ha, that was easier than I thought. Once he takes out that sword of his, I'll use million lasers and send them all straight to hell. There's no way they can survive the attack point blank, he thought. But a huge surprise came as Asta took hold of the handle and pushed it in further, causing the basic mage to scream in pain. What are you doing? That's not taking the sword out. You, surrender. Yeah right, there's no way I'm falling for that, your key is so easy to read, you were lying about wanting to work together, and you're lying now. The magicless mage exclaimed as he pointed at the basic mage. I'm not even going to ask what the hell key is, Ladros said with an irritated tone, his head dropping to the ground. He turned and saw the other mages looking at him. He could tell from their expressions that they were somewhat at ease. Seeing that the enemy was seemingly defeated, he started to detect their mana signatures through habit. They were moderate, but nothing out of the ordinary. Or so he thought. He detected one signature that felt familiar, similar to something he absorbed earlier, and it was something he liked. What I'm about to do is risky and could possibly fail, but it's worth a try, he thought as he focused and emitted magic in a small mana explosion. That explosion managed to force the demon dweller out and send it a few feet back. My sword! Asta exclaimed as he ran to get it. Ladros quickly got up. Basic magic. Quick flash. He exclaimed as he boosted himself straight at Mars. The mineral mage wasn't able to react fast enough and got punched in the face. Mars! Fana exclaimed. It didn't matter if she never fought the mage before, she was going to do something, but just like her love interest, she wasn't able to react fast enough as Ladros grabbed her hands and bound them behind her back. Damn it! Get away from her! Fanzel exclaimed this time, ready to attack. Stay back, or else she dies. Ladros told them, forcing all of the mages to keep their distance and not do a thing. He then looked at the flame mage. Hello there, it seems I'm going to need your help. Fana sort of recognized that voice. Ladros, is that you? You know me, the basic mage said as he looked at her closer before his eyes widened in surprise. Wait a minute, Fana. I'd recognize that pink hair anywhere. I thought you were dead, but hey, I guess I was wrong, this makes things a bit easier. That fireball that hit me a little while ago, the mana coming from it is incredibly similar to yours, so I'm going to need you to give me some more of that power. What are you talking about? I don't remember any fireball. Fana said with confusion. Noelle raised a brow. That's odd, she doesn't remember what happened before her third eye disappeared. Ladros tightened his grip. Come on Fana, don't play dumb with me, help a fellow former student out, or else I'll have to get physical, he said before freeing one of his hands and pointing it at Mars' body on the ground. What are you going to do? Fana asked. Why tell you when I can show you? The blonde general exclaimed as he fired a bullet at Mars, sending his body up in the air for a few seconds as he grunted in pain. No, Mars, the flame mage cried before turning to her captor, her voice growing dark. I don't know what happened to you, Ladros, but if you hurt him again, I'll kill you, she screamed as fire appeared around her and Salamander took form, roaring loudly. Everyone had looks of worry on their faces, but Ladros was quite the opposite. In fact, he was ecstatic. There we go, I knew you had it in you, Fana, now come to me, spirit, I want that powerful magic of yours. He exclaimed as he began absorbing the fire spirit. A bright explosion then occurred, causing everyone to cover their eyes. The light faded soon after, so the group of mages opened their eyes again, but not even a second passed after doing so before it widened greatly. They saw Fana on the ground, conscious, but too weak to get up. Standing above her was Ladros, but he looked incredibly different. His blonde hair had a fiery red hue to it as it floated in the air. His hands all the way down to the base of his elbow changed color completely, becoming a fiery red as well. Wings made of fire were on his back, and he was fully enveloped in a translucent red aura. No way, he actually absorbed a spirit. Vanessa said in shock. Fana began to slowly crawl away from him, towards the mineral mage. Mars. The spiky-haired general also started to crawl towards her. Fana. Ladros looked at them before giving one of his iconic crazy grins. Ah, how adorable. Did something happen between you two during the few minutes I was gone? Well, I'll just leave you to do whatever you're doing. He then looked at the group of mages a fair distance away from him. Because I'm going to take care of you people first. Oh no you aren't. A voice exclaimed. The spirit-infused basic mage turned to see Asta running at him. I'm going to stop. The swordsman was interrupted as a small bullet suddenly shot through his shoulder. Just wanted to get some payback quick. Now we're even, Asta, Ladros said, his finger still pointed out as he watched the magicless mage drop to the ground. No, Asta, Noelle exclaimed as she pointed her wand at the enemy. Water creation magic. Sea dragons roar. At her call, the large serpentine dragon raced towards the blonde general, its mouth open, ready to devour him in an instant. Hey, that's not a bad spell. I'd normally absorb it, but now, that's no longer necessary, Ladros said with a mocking tone at the end as he put a hand up and fired a powerful flame stream. The two attacks struggled for a few seconds, but it was obvious that the water mage's spell was no match, and sure enough, it was defeated. We need to act fast. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, winter wind. Fanzel then exclaimed as he shot a barrage of wind swords at his former student. Oh come on teach. Don't underestimate me, Ladros said as he blasted smaller streams in quick succession, taking out every individual sword. I'm not underestimating you, and I'll show you right now. The wind mage exclaimed again as he started running towards him. Running right at me. Let's see where that will get you, the spirit-infused basic mage said sarcastically as he blasted another one-handed stream at his former teacher. Don't worry, Fanzel, I've got you, spatial magic, fallen angels twin gates. Finral exclaimed as he formed the four portals. The first set looked quite strange as they were next to each other in a single file. The second set looked more like usual, with one aiming right at Ladros from the side, while the other was aiming at him from above. Fanzel ran into the first portal as the stream went into the second one. The stream then came out of the portal aiming at Ladros from the side, but the blonde general didn't look worried. Lame, was all he said as he carelessly raised a hand up in the direction the stream was coming at him, not even bothering to look at it as the stream was reabsorbed, and his mana detection picking up on Fanzel coming at him from above. Wind magic. Emperor of slashing winds, Gale. Fanzel exclaimed while falling, ready to use the extra force to boost his attack. You know I could just absorb that attack, yet you try it anyway. Getting desperate I see. The spirit-infused basic mage taunted as he limboed, just as Fanzel was landing, dodging the mage's attack completely. What the? Fanzel muttered, shocked by his opponent's move. Wasn't expecting that. I bet you weren't expecting this either. Ladros exclaimed as he quickly positioned himself upright and spun counterclockwise, slamming his heel right into the side of Fanzel's face as the wind mage was sent hurtling towards a tree. As he hit the trunk, he dropped to the ground, conscious, but unable to get up. That takes care of him. Now it's time for you, he said as he looked at the remaining black bulls. Wrong, Vanessa said as she quickly bound him with her threads. Finral, teleport everyone else out of here. You act like I'll let you do that, Ladros said as he quickly freed himself before raising up both hands. Now you can die, he released the strongest stream he's fired. Finral, Vanessa, get behind me, water creation magic, sea dragon's lair. Noelle exclaimed as she quickly casted her barrier spell. The blast hit it, but just a few seconds passed before a small explosion was heard and steam covered the battlefield. Whoa, things are getting hot around here, I wonder how my enemies are faring. Ladros quipped before asking rhetorically, but as the steam dispersed, he got his answer. The three magic knights were on the ground, in the same state as the mages from the Diamond Kingdom. Ah, victorious while my opponents lay on the ground like the losers they are. All things are as they should be. Now, all that's left to do is finish you off. Go find Brosnan, and find that queen to complete this mission, he continued. Why you're wrong, there's still one more thing you have to do before that. The sound of a voice caught Ladros off guard. As he turned around to see who the voice belonged to, he grinned. It was Asta. The magicless mage was starting to get back up, using the demon slayer to aid him as he put the demon dweller back in his grimoire. You have to defeat me. So, you're back up, I must say, I'm impressed. I've never met someone with that kind of determination before, Lodros said, minorly praising the boy. That's right. No matter how many times I go down, I get back up. I'll never quit, Asta said adamantly. If you never quit, then that means I can take you down time after time again, and to be honest, that sounds like a lot of fun, so let's see how true you keep to those words. Lodros exclaimed as he fired a stream at Asta, hitting him directly, propelling him feet away from where he stood. Ah, come on, what happened to not quitting? Get back up. I only shot you once, I've got tons more left in me, he continued mocking. Asta gripped the grass under his palm. He was going to stay true to his word, he wasn't going to quit. This has become quite the battle. The Witch Queen watched the battle go down between the spirit-enhanced Lodros and the group of mages, but she zeroed in on the magicless mage as he laid on the ground. If I'm not mistaken, his name is Asta. I still don't know how he found those swords or how he is able to use them. When I healed him with my cocoon, I was given control of his bloodstream. I assumed the reason he's able to wield the swords was because he has a special bloodline, relating to the race that lived long ago, but it seems I was wrong. For some strange reason, he can't use magic, but other than that, there's nothing about him that's out of the ordinary, she mused. The blood mage watched as Lodros began mocking Asta. She put a hand under her chin. Asta, I must learn more about you, but that can't happen if you die, so I shall offer you my assistance. She then put her hand up and clenched it. Back outside, on the battlefield, Asta looked up at Lodros from the ground. I can't lose to him. If I do, he'll kill the others. I wish Kenos was here, he might have been able to do something. His muttering stopped as he felt a strange feeling in his chest. His heartbeat began getting stronger and stronger, until he could hear it. An odd black aura crept around him as the grass under his hand started to wither. The black aura then began to surge around, warranting gasps of surprise from the others. Asta, Noel muttered. The surging aura then wrapped around the magicless mage, turning into a cocoon. Lodros' face showed genuine interest. I'm not picking up mana from whatever that is, so is that anti-magic. Cool, it seems you learned a new trick. Too bad it won't save you, the spirit-infused basic mage said as he blasted a quick stream at the cocoon, but to his surprise, nothing happened. Okay, never mind, I guess it will save you, it seems I'll have to wait. Within the cocoon, Asta slowly opened his eyes. Where am I? Once they were fully open, his eyes widened in shock. The area around him was totally red, as far as the eye could see. Oh crap, how did I get here? I got to find a way out. He exclaimed, but he then noticed that he wasn't standing on solid ground either. In fact, he was floating. Okay, this is weird, I just wish I knew what this place was. If you want, I could tell you. The sudden sound of an unfamiliar voice caught the swordsman off guard. The voice was deep and sort of unsettling, and he was certain it was coming from behind him, so he turned around, but his eyes widened once more. Before him was a ginormous figure, the shape of its body merely being a black silhouette. It had black fangs and a set of black horns and wings. By the sound of its voice, it was most likely male. Hello there, the figure spoke again. Asta's eyes narrowed, almost as if he somewhat recognized whatever stood before him. You look familiar. Those features of yours, I remember reading stories about things like you when I was a boy. You're a devil. The accused devil chuckled weirdly. You always were smarter than the people around you gave you credit for. That is what I am, but I'd prefer it if you called me Roth. Roth, is that your name? Asta asked again. No, but you can call me that for now. I'd rather not be called a devil. I'm not so fond of that name, Roth told him. Okay, Roth, where am I, and why are you here? Where are we? Why, we're in your grimoire. This is where I've always been, watching you, and those friends of yours. I've known you for the longest time, Roth replied. For the longest time? Sorry, I'm pretty sure this is our first time meeting, and there are people I've known before getting my grimoire, Asta told him. Roth chuckled again. I suppose you're right. The magicless mage was starting to get annoyed. I see, so why am I here exactly? He asked. I don't know how you got here, let alone why you're here in the first place, but this is a great opportunity, the devil said ecstatically as he extended his arms out. Asta raised a brow. How so? I can see you're having trouble with that guy who absorbed the spirit. If you want, I'll defeat him for you. All you have to do is give me control of your body. Sit tight and I'll handle everything. Sounds great, right? Roth explained before asking. What? No way. Asta exclaimed as he pointed at the large black entity. This is my battle. I'll do it with my strength alone. Besides, we just met, and my trust in you isn't as high as it could be. So, that's your answer. Well, I tried being polite and asking nicely, but since that didn't manage to persuade you, I'll just take your body by force, pipsqueak. Roth exclaimed as he closed his hands around Asta's body. Damn, that was easy, now all I have to do is. Roth was in the middle of talking while he slowly opened his hand, but he was shocked to find that nothing was in between them. What? Hey, over here. The devil looked down at his arm to see Asta standing there. I might be smaller than you, but don't you dare underestimate me. He exclaimed before he started running up Roth's arm. Damn it, why are you making this difficult? He exclaimed as he slammed his large black hand onto his shoulder. There we go. You said you've known me for the longest time, right? At the sound of that voice, Roth looked at his hand to see Asta climbing it, but a black substance began to engulf his right arm, all the way up to his shoulder. Then you should know the one thing about me that will never change, that I'll never give up, not to you, or anyone else. Asta screamed as the black from Roth's hand began to travel into the swordsman's body as he let out a powerful roar. I wonder how long I'll have to wait, but then again, I guess I should be patient, it's only been about 20 seconds, Lodros commented, but then he saw the cocoon break open. Ah, there you are, I knew you couldn't stay in there forever, let's get this. The blonde general's words were interrupted as he stopped midway. Instead focusing on the enemy in front of him as he gasped. The left half of Asta's body looked perfectly normal. But the right side was a different story, his ash blonde hair became a dark black. His green eye became red with a black mark going down from it, the entirety of his right arm was black, strange black strands were around his torso, looking like they were trying to make their way to his left side, but were unable to. A single decayed black wing sprouted from his back, a single horn coming out of his head, and finally, his sword had become fully black, with the rust of its apparent age no longer visible. What the hell? Lodros muttered. Never giving up. Asta silently spoke, his voice sounding like it was a mix of his own and something more demonic. Everybody looked at him, not a single face not contorting in surprise at what stood before them, but then the looks disappeared as Asta spoke again. My magic is never giving up, he exclaimed as he flew straight at Lodros. What the hell happened to Asta? Was he always able to do whatever that is? Finral asked, but he was met only with shaking heads. From her palace, the Witch Queen watched. You truly are fascinating, Asta. When I healed you earlier, as well as having control of your bloodstream, I was also able to see the flow of anti-magic in your body. It was quite low, so I broke the limit, causing the anti-magic to surge inside you, which resulted in that form of yours. But something's strange, anti-magic only seems to be covering half of your body, it's as if your willpower is keeping you from being entirely consumed. I suppose that's impressive, so show me what you're capable of. Shit, Lodros cursed as he quickly flew up, dodging Asta's attack as he flashed right through where the general was just a few seconds ago. Okay, something tells me this fight is going to get a lot more interesting, I guess that means I can get serious. Basic magic. AE Cannon Barrage. At his call, he fired the familiar attack, but this time, it looked different. The aura sphere was red and the bullets looked like smaller versions of Salamander's breath. Asta said nothing as he swiftly deflected the shots with minimal effort, he then looked up at Lodros and flew up to him. The spirit-infused basic mage then flew back down, speeding through the ground as he started to enter the forest, a trail of flame forming where he once was. You're not getting away, Asta said as he flew after him in the same fashion, flying into the forest. I wonder if anyone is around here. Those were the words that came out of Anna's mouth as she and Kenos walked through the forest. The solar mage was helping the golden eye mage, her arm around his shoulder since she had trouble walking. I'm not too sure. It could be some time before we run into anyone, Kenos said back to her as he looked at the woman before looking straight again. So, what about your armor? We had to leave it back at the place where we fought, do you mind losing it? Oh, it's not lost, she replied, gesturing to the pendant around her neck. My armor is enchanted. Despite what happens to it, it will eventually repair itself, and my pendant will summon it from wherever it is. I see. Anna looked at Kenos. Now it's my turn to ask questions. Okay. Shoot. Why did you want to help me? You already spared me after our fight, but now you're helping me. Why, weren't you holding some grudge against me just a little while ago today? She asked. It's true, I was really mad at you, but the fight's over now, I've avenged my captain, and besides, I only spared you in the first place because I don't want to take you from your family, and who knows what would have happened to you if I left you in that crater, Kenos replied. Wow, have I ever told you you're a strange boy? Anna asked. The solar mage chuckled. No, just foolish, he said. Say, since we might not run into anybody, could you tell me about your family? I bet starting one is nice. An oddly sly smirk came to the golden eye mage's face. Oh, is there a girl you're interested in? Oh, no, nothing like that. There's no one I know who's into me like that. I was just curious about your family life, Kenos replied with a denying gesture. I see. Well, my family life is fine. Lotus and I are happily in love, and we couldn't be more proud of our 3 daughters, the woman said. Kenos looked down with a sad expression. Couldn't be any more proud. I bet that must be nice. I take it there's something personal related to the matter. Anna asked. You could say that. You see, Kenos was about to reply, but was interrupted as something flew right past them. What the hell? The flying figure stopped flying, causing Anna to widen her eyes. Lodros. What happened to him? Why does he look like that? Take this, you damn brat. Lodros exclaimed as he launched a large fireball forward. Who was he aiming at? Kenos wondered aloud, but soon, his question was answered as Asta zoomed past them and deflected the fireball straight into the air. The expression on the solar mage's face matched that which his squadmates expressed earlier. Total shock. Holy stinking shit, Asta. Is that you? Why do you look like that? Kenos wondered quietly, but then something else caught his attention. It was his grimoire. It was flashing a bright orange, and the solar mage was getting a strange feeling from it. It's flashing, just like it did in the underwater temple, but why? Lodros and Asta then flew away, not seeming to notice the two mages on the ground. Kenos looked at his grimoire to see that the flashing stopped. Strange. He then looked back to Anna, who looked at him. Something tells me we'd better hurry. Up in the sky, Asta and Lodros were still at it. The flying swordsman had gotten close enough and begun sending slash after slash. The spirit-infused basic mage did his best to dodge to close-range attacks, but one ended up getting through, forming a cut on his cheek. Damn it, he's quick, Lodros muttered as he quickly shot back down to the ground, but he soon saw Asta right on his trail, so he started flying again just as Asta landed, but the magicless mage quickly pursued him through the trees. The blonde general was starting to establish distance. He used this chance to turn around and pitch a stream of small fireballs, but to his surprise, Asta didn't even waste his time parrying them with his sword, he simply dodged them. Holy crap, it doesn't matter what I throw at him, he doesn't slow down, Lodros said to himself as he finally landed, not too far away. Asta did the same, slowly walking towards him with a mad look in his eyes. You truly are a strange person, Asta, the queen said. You have no magic, but that's what somehow lets you wield those swords. You're just a regular human, but you stand firm against any opponent, no matter how strong they are. In a world of special people, you're nothing special yourself, but that's exactly what makes you special. I'm done playing around. This is everything I've got. Lodros exclaimed as he joined his hands together, firing the strongest flame stream he's ever made. Asta, expression didn't change as he set the demon slayer in front of him, like a shield while placing his normal hand on the side of the blade, using it as reinforcement. Soon, the stream made contact with the blade, but the swordsman was undaunted as he easily continued walking towards his opponent. How the hell are you doing that? Lodros asked loudly as he kept firing, but it was obvious that it had no effect, so he took to the skies once more. Asta looked up, the ground cracked a bit under his feet before he skyrocketed after him. The group of mages had seen the entire scuffle go down, but were too shocked to say anything, but eventually, Noelle opened her mouth, only saying one word. Amazing. Hey, everyone, I'm here. They all looked from the ground to see Kenos come into view. They suddenly regained their voices. Kenos, you're back, Finral said with relief, but then he noticed the woman he was keeping up. And who's this beauty? Is she a witch? Watch it there, Casanova, I'm married, Anna said. Mars knew her though. Brosnan, you're okay. Fanzel's eyes widened. Wait, Brosnan, you're a woman. Correct, Kruger, Anna replied. And it seems that Lodros has gone through a makeover. I also saw Asta too. What the hell did I miss? Kenos said before asking. Too much, Vanessa replied. Can you heal us? Sorry, I'm out of mana for now. Used up everything fighting her, the solar mage replied, but then he looked at the sky. But I don't think my help will be needed. Asta has got this under control. Everyone looked up too, seeing a red stream racing through the sky, and closing in right behind it was a black stream. This is the end for you, Asta exclaimed as he got closer to the spirit-infused basic mage. Lodros did his best to evade the magicless mage, but no matter what he tried, Asta would never be too far away. No, no, no. How can this be the end for me? I've gotten to where I am by not caring about the things and people around me, so why can't I defeat you? He screamed before firing another stream, but Asta bypassed it effortlessly. You may have disregarded the people around you to become what you are, but as for me, it's the people that raised me up, the people who pushed me further, the people who brought out the best in me over and over again. It's through them, Asta began saying as his mind thought to everyone in his past who affected him for the better before his grimoire flipped to a blank page as text was inscribed on it. Quote. That I am strong. His speed then went up as he crashed into Lodros with his blade. Anti-magic. Black meteorite. He exclaimed as Lodros began zooming down towards the ground, crashing with tremendous force. The swordsman landed as well soon after. Damn, my crystal, it broke, Lodros muttered weakly. The spirit's power had left him, as well as all the magic he absorbed, causing his body to look withered. The basic mage looked up to see Asta's face, looking straight at him. Is this how far my mindset could bring me? Well, I guess it's time for me to die. What? No way, Asta comedically exclaimed. Was the thought that went through everyone's head. I may have defeated you, but I won't kill you. You have to pay for everything you've done and the suffering you've caused. All death is just a cheap ticket out. The swordsman told him. What? So you won't kill me? Lodros asked. I hate the fact that I lost to him. But, a part of me is really happy too. He wanted to spare his opponent despite everything he's done. That's so like you, Asta, Noel thought with a smile. Suddenly, Asta's strange form disappeared, causing him to look normal again. Oh, it vanished. I wonder what that was anyway. Hey, Asta, the solar mage exclaimed. Kenos, you're back, and you're safe. What a relief. I guess that means everything is over, Asta said back. Not just yet, a voice said. Asta turned to see the queen coming down to him, riding on a horde of crows before she landed. That was quite the impressive battle. Asta grinned as he scratched the back of his head. Thanks, I appreciate it. The queen merely nodded. You must be injured though. Blood recover magic. Curse-breaking blood-filled cocoon, she said as the sphere surrounded Asta, healing his wounds before disappearing. Oh, thanks, if you could heal my friends too, we'll be on our way, the swordsman said to her. Oh, that won't be necessary, because you're not leaving. Blood creation magic. Fresh blood execution ground. She exclaimed as a large amount of blood covered the ground. Crucifixes then rose out of the ground behind each person, suddenly restraining them by their wrists, ankles, and stomachs. Asta saw that he was the only one not bound. He turned to the blood mage. What are you doing? Release my friends, or else you'll regret it. Wrong. Blood magic. Puppet's blood, the queen said as Asta started screaming in pain as his skin started to look cracked and his eyeballs disappeared. The swordsman then transformed back into his half-demon form. You are now under my power, Asta, and you will do whatever I command. For your first command, the queen began as she pointed to all the bound mages. Quote. Kill them all.